I reckon it counts down and we're still not even ready.
Send it us.
We get a 5 seconds countdown. We've still got shit in our mouth when it hits 1. So we're both in sports mode today.
Yes.
Caps backwards.
Fuck yeah. That's how you know we're up to some serious business tonight.
It's either gangster. Like, is it gangster? I don't know. I'm pretty old. I'm out of touch.
I don't know what the kids are saying these days, but all I know is just like I guarantee as well, throughout tonight, I'll be wearing my cap like this, and then I'll eventually do like one of these ones, and then I'll probably go back to doing this.
Yeah, it'll be all over the place.
I'm just a fucking hot mess.
You're a fidgeter.
Yeah.
Did you ever get into fidget spinners?
No.
You never had one?
No.
Or didn't like them?
I just honestly was like never really interested in them.
Oh, dude, I was on them. I loved them.
Like,
I used to do 2.
Like I quite often will have like things in my hands, like I have this fucking bit of wire,
that's
or like
odd.
Whatever the fuck it is that like held something together, and I've like almost always got something in my hand that I like obviously can't see at the moment, but like I'll be like fidgeting with it in my hands like this. But as far as like an actual like widget spinner, like yeah, never got one of those.
Yeah, I liked them.
My favorite thing was always like, you know, those like the 4 colored pens.
Yeah, and you click the colors down.
Yeah, but like trying to push like all 4 down at once, I was like, oh, I can't get it.
Try and jam like the fat things through the thin hole.
Yeah.
Also my favorite thing to do.
Such a good time.
I used to wear my hat backwards all the time when I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally every day. I mean, I've been a hat wearer and collector, I guess connoisseur, you may say, for my entire life. And I used to wear my cap backwards every day. And we lived in the house that I grew up in. We lived in that house for 15 years growing up. And we had the same back fence neighbors the entire time. And the guy that lived in that house, he built the house himself. He was a builder. So you can imagine he was a really good builder. Like, it was a beautiful house that they lived in, but he was a builder. So he was a bit rough around the edges, didn't pull any punches at all. And I remember going over there to swim in their pool one day, and I had my cap backwards, and he was like, "Cap backwards, hey, mate?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Is that so you can get closer to the dicks that you suck?" I was like, wow. Guess hat goes forward. And I was just like, dude, I was probably 15 at the time. And it just like, I didn't even know what to say. I was so shocked. I went bright red and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to say.
Dude, I'm 33, and if someone said that to me, I probably would be sitting there like, oh, I don't know what to say to that.
No, I just like my hat backwards, I guess.
Yeah.
So I have never forgot that ever. It's imprinted in my brain.
I still find really weird though is when you like see like fully grown men that wear their hats to the side like this,
and that's not even comfortable.
Just look like a fuckwit,
and it's not even comfortable.
No, and it's like just it doesn't make any sense.
Who did that? Was that Limp Bizkit that did that? I think Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit did that. I think.
Yeah, but he also dressed up as a cowboy like last time he performed.
Yeah, but he was pretty baller back in the day. He's not so. He's not so.
In the 90s when they came out with Rollin', it was like Fred Durst can do no wrong.
Oh, he was such a cool cunt. He was that album actually that had break stuff.
The amount of playtime that album still gets for me is ridiculous.
What were the other good songs on that album? Nookie, that was a good one.
Is a classic. Let me confer with my Spotify.
Yeah, there was Nookie, break stuff. That was such a good album. I didn't so much like the one after that.
Yeah, so that was the album Significant Other that came out in '99.
Yep, that's the one.
So there's like Nookie, Break Stuff. I was quite a fan of And Together Now. That was Limp Bizkit and
Mm,
Method Man.
yeah.
I was like, fuck yeah.
Oh, Method Man was so good.
But can we play a bit of that without getting like
Yeah,
fucking
yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah.
like if you can't fucking get around this, we can't be friends.
Put your hat sideways.
Huh?
Put your hat sideways. Yeah, see? It works.
But
Yeah.
if we were gonna do it properly, I'd have to do like the fucking Wu Tang shit too.
Method Man's underrated.
Oh,
I'm
dude,
gonna
like,
listen, I'm gonna listen to that album tomorrow morning when I train.
because the funny thing is, I got into Method Man through watching How High.
Yeah, okay. That's a funny movie.
Fuck, that's no good. Like that is a movie that stands the test of time.
I actually didn't even know who Wu-Tang were for such a long time. Didn't know Method Man, didn't know Redman, none of it. Didn't know anything about it. And then I was managing a gym in Fairfield, California, 24-hour fitness Fairfield. I wasn't actually managing that one. I was the membership manager there. And one of the service reps, so like the front desk people, he was a super cool dude. His name's Hector.
Yep.
He went through this massive weight loss transformation. He was like everyone's favorite guy. He was just like super charismatic Mexican fella. But he was also super artistic. And he used to make like custom shoes. So you would buy like white Air Force Ones or like white Jordans or just like all white shoes. And he would go and paint them with custom murals and designs and like graffiti writing all over them. And they were so sick. And he would do it on Timberlands as well. And then one day he posted a photo on Facebook at the time of giving shoes to Method Man and Redman that he did up for them, custom.
That's fucking sick.
And then when I saw him at the gym, I was like, bro, who were those people that you did shoes for? Like, they looked like they were famous or something. They had like chains all over them, and they had the swag. They had security guards.
Yeah.
They were obviously like super high, just in public, like they didn't even care. And he was like, "Oh, that's Method Man and Redman." I was like, "I don't know who that is. That means nothing to me. Tell me more about them. Explain who they are." So he did, and then I was like, "Shit!" But it turns out he's cousins with one of them.
Really?
Yeah, I can't remember which one.
Fuck, that's not a bad little in for someone to have to like get their art out in the world.
But the shoes that he did, man, was so nice. I always wanted to get him to do me a pair, but then I never did, and I ended up moving to Seattle and lost contact. But I'm still friends with him on Facebook, so
Should
pretty
hit
cool.
him up, man.
Yeah, the shoes that he does are awesome, like really cool. You've just joined. Speaking of shoes, you've just joined the Jordan Club today.
I have.
Tell us about that. You know what, Ben? I'm proud of you, but I never ever
heard a male figure in my life say those words.
I never thought I'd see the day that you donned a pair of Jordans.
To be fair, I tried to buy a pair like 18 months ago. I won, so the exact, I'm not going to go into like the colors and shit because I'll post those when they come. But I won a bid on eBay for a pair of these for like $180. And I've got a lot of friends of mine that are like really into their shoes and like really into their Jordans.
Yeah.
They're just like, dude, you got those for like $180? I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
I've done well, haven't I? And they're like, you have no idea how well you've done. Like they go for like $550 for a pair.
Yep. That's what I knew that as soon as I saw them.
Well, this pair I picked up for $330. So like I've still done pretty fucking well. Like for me, like I still sit there, I'm like, that's like an ungodly amount of money to spend on a pair of like shoes that I'm not going to wear every day. Like my Bebos, I spend like think it's like $220 on a pair of those, but I literally wear those every day.
Yeah, but so here's the thing. I do wear my Jordans every single day.
Yeah.
I have two pairs. I have a mid pair, like what you got.
Oh, these are highs.
Oh, they're highs. So I have a pair of mids that I've competed in twice, and a pair of lows that I've competed in once.
Yeah.
The mids I wore every day for about a year and a half. Trained in them, competed in them, wore them to work, everything. Wore them out everywhere. The lows I've worn literally every single day since May last year. Every training session, 2 comps every day. And both of them are, the only thing that's wrong with them is that they're dirty because they have chalk and talc and stuff all over them because I don't clean them. Other than that, there's not a single thing wrong with them. So the fact that you're not going to wear yours every day, they'll probably just last you forever.
Well, I mean, the reality is as well, like, I could probably just, like, if I was really just doing it purely for the sake of being like, I'm just going to try and make money off sneakers, I could probably just sell them and make like $200 off them.
Yeah, but you don't want to be that guy.
Nah, not yet anyway.
Who wants to make money off sneakers? Like, get a real job, man.
Dude, I used to have this client, and he was like an avid sneaker collector. And when I say that, like, an avid sneaker collector, he's like, I sold a couple of, like, he goes, I sold a couple of pairs of shoes, and it paid for him to go get married in the US.
Damn. Okay, I take it back.
Yeah. Like, it may have been more than like a couple of pairs, but like, he's like, it was like a fucking fraction of what my collection is. But anytime, like he was one of those guys that like knew everything there was to know about sneakers. Like, would spend a lot of money to buy the sneakers, hold on to them for like 6 to 12 months, and then like sell them again. But he literally had an entire room in his house full of sneakers.
Damn. Yeah. My brother has a bunch of Jordans, but he's getting rid of them all at the moment. Not exactly sure why. Midlife crisis. Dude, I'm so freaking hot in this room.
Oh, me too. I was like, I really want to have the fan on again tonight, but last week you're like, dude, it's so noisy.
Nah, I usually have the aircon on, but it's super hot here today, and Em's in the lounge room studying, and she's like, I'm just going to put the aircon on out here for a little bit because you've had it on in there all day doing check-ins. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no worries. I'll just sit here with a ring light blasting on my face with no aircon on.
Nice.
Beautiful. It's fantastic.
So good.
I like got out of the shower just before I made my 2 coffees and I'm already sweating.
Yeah. It's like story of my life.
It's fun, isn't it? Did you just go train?
I trained earlier today.
You just posted the videos late?
Yeah.
Tricked me. I was like looking at your story. I'm like, is he going to be home in time? What's going on?
Like, what is this motherfucker doing? Yeah, no. I went and trained at like 12:30.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
How did it go?
It went all right. Like, my neck and shoulders a bit gunky at the moment.
What from?
It's just like old man shit. Like, I think I've just like slept funny. I woke up one morning, I was like, oh, my neck. But like, when I like set up for my bench, like when I'm there, like I will push my neck into the bench really, really, really hard. And as I'm doing that, I'm just like, oh god, like everything in my neck feels like it wants to just explode. So
yeah, you could just really feel it.
Yeah, so like my positioning wasn't as good today as it was say last week or previously, but I was like, I got the job done, so that's all I really give 2 shits about.
Yeah, it looked like it moved okay.
Yeah, like it didn't feel like hard as such, but it was just more so like, I mean, like I did a bit of driving over the weekend as well.
You did a lot of driving over the weekend.
Not like it was a bit, but it wasn't what I would really classify as like tons. But it was like,
dude, if I drive to Bunnings, which I did this afternoon, that's a ton of driving. It's 5 minutes away.
Yeah. I've lost your video, by the way.
I can still see you. It's okay.
Well, it's back now.
The cool thing about this program is it actually records like on the computer.
Yeah.
So, like the call that I did with Annie last week, I don't know if you could notice on the one that I posted, but on some of the other videos that'll be coming out, the audio's like just slightly delayed by like a second.
Mm.
Like I like cut over her sometimes because it's delayed a little bit. But when we were filming, when I was looking at her, the whole screen was like just blurred the whole time.
Oh, good.
Like super grainy and blurry. But then when you see the video, it doesn't look like that at all.
So, because that's the thing, like, obviously, like, having gone out and bought the new camera, and we had, like, the first week on here, I was looking at your footage, I'm like, dude, yours looks grainy as fuck. It looks like what mine used to look like with my old shit camera.
Yeah. But then when it comes out, it's not like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's
deceiving.
Yeah, so neck's just a little bit jacked up, but still managed to get a pretty good session in, so I was pretty happy with that.
Nice. Did you do anything after bench?
Yeah, I did my top set of 4, a back off set of 8. I did some dumbbell pressing, I did some lat pull downs, I did some arms, and I did some shoulders.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good.
What are you doing for shoulders?
Lateral raises.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Like
between dips on my secondary day, between dumbbell pressing, I'm like, probably need to do a little bit of isolated stuff for my delts just to try and, like, I want to build delts so, like, fat and juicy that I want people to go, oh, he's definitely on gear.
Yeah. You know a really good way to do that?
Just take steroids.
Yeah, exactly.
I want delts that look like I'm on gear without actually having to be on gear.
Yeah, that's fair. Lateral raises are great.
Yeah.
I'm a huge advocate for lateral raises.
Machine delt raise at the gym.
Is it an Atlantis one?
Yeah.
Oh, they're so good.
So we've got an Atlantis one and we've got a Prime one.
Are they standing or seated?
Seated.
Okay, so the Atlantis seated one, that's the one that's on like a little bit of a forward angle.
So we've got 2 Atlantis ones. This is how spoiled we are in the gym, right?
Yeah.
So we've got one that's got like these weird like handles that you hold the handle like that, and then you can do like your lateral raises, and then you can like lean forward on the chest pad, and it then turns like a rear delt as well.
Yep, that's the one I've used.
Yeah, they've got another one there, which is just like a standard pad where you'll sit in there. You've got handles to hold on to, so as you come up, you're just going.
And it's like the pad on your forearm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't used that one. I've used the one with the weird handles. I actually really like that one though.
It's good, but I always feel like if I'm trying to do like my laterals heavy, by the time I get up into like this top position here, I feel like my hand and the handle just wants to go.
Yeah, I use
that wanker who's like, oh, I'm using straps to do lateral raises.
Is the Prime one a standing or seated as well?
Seated as well, but they don't have the handles.
Okay, how do you hold on to it?
Well, because it's just this motion here. So
it's just that. I gotcha. Yeah.
But I feel like having the handles to hold on to, you can go into like a really nice position here, and then as you come up, you can really set yourself in a position that's really nice because you've got the handles to like almost like brace against.
Yeah, I love them. Yeah,
it's fucking sick.
But there's at World Gym Northern Beaches, which I train at sometimes, they have a standing Atlantis lateral raise, and that is my favorite. I love that one because with that seated one, I like to use that one when I want to do rear delts because I can lean forward on the pad and it takes out any torso movement whatsoever, and I can really like isolate the rear delt. And I can't go super heavy on those anyway, so the handle thing doesn't really matter. With the standing one, I'm too tall for the platform, even on the lower setting, so I stand behind the platform so that my shin is just on the edge of the platform. And then when I grab the handles, because I'm a little bit lower and a little bit further back than the platform, I can come a little bit more forward with my hand a little bit more into that like scapular plane instead of directly outwards. And I can really like stretch out my arms to the side of the room when I do it. And I just get the sickest delt pump every time.
So nice, isn't it?
Oh, I love it so much. It's probably that machine and the Prime low row machine are my two favorites at that gym.
When you guys are in Melbourne for Pro Raw, you'll have to come train at the gym I'm at with me.
Do you guys have a Prime low row?
Dude, they have like Prime everything.
But do you have a low row?
I believe so.
If you do, I'll move to Melbourne.
Guys, you heard it here first. If not, I'm literally just going to say to the guy at the gym, like, can you get the Prime low row?
Let's
Because
make
they're the kind of guys that would be like, yeah, absolutely, we can.
you just be like, hey, listen to this. This guy said if you get a Prime low row, he'll move here. Let's make him uproot his entire life just for a laugh.
For the lols.
Dude, those low rows are the best.
Hmm.
I strap up on them like a tool. Like, I know sometimes you look like a wanker when you wear straps on a machine. I don't care.
No, I don't. I would not agree with that at all.
Sometimes you do.
There are times when it's just like you just need to like raw dog things.
Yeah.
And then you will look like if you can do something heavy without straps, and then you can put straps on and do like something even like more obnoxiously heavy. I might go for it.
Yeah.
Like the hammer strength, like plate loaded row that they had a world gym. They have one at one gym that I trained at as well.
That's the like ISO row, the high seated one with the two. Yeah.
So like I like to do those standing.
Yeah. With your hand on the pad.
Lateral.
Yeah.
But like I can load like 5 plates per side for like sets of like 8 to 10.
Yeah. They're nice when you do them standing. I don't like them seated.
I don't either.
I like them standing.
Yeah. But like that's where it's like if I put straps on and I can do like 100+ kilo rows, I'm going to put straps on.
Yeah. I'm a big advocate for straps on rows. But yeah, those low row machines, they're so juicy from the back. They actually, I have a third and fourth favorite machine that they have there. My third favorite is they have a Prime lat pull down. It's pin loaded, but it's separate stacks per side.
Yeah.
And it's actually a machine, not a cable, but it moves almost like a cable. It's the only place I've ever seen it at, and it's beautiful. That hits my lats perfectly. And my fourth favorite there is I have like a overhead tricep press machine, which is beautiful.
Nice.
They're my 4 favorites. And the pendulum gets an honorable mention.
We do love a pendulum.
Do you have a pendulum at your gym? God damn it.
We've got an Atlantis one, I think.
They're my favorite.
They're so nice.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of pretty much everything Atlantis machines.
They have done very well.
Yeah, I can't really think of an Atlantis piece that I don't like.
Like, when I say that, like, the amount of shit that we have in the gym is outrageous, it's outrageous.
It is outrageous, I know. How far is that from the, like, Yarra Valley-ish region?
A fair way away.
Like, what's that?
Let me confer with the old navigation.
So, like, is there a place that would be, like, 40 minutes to half an hour from either?
Not really. Like,
Because if there is, I'll move there.
You guys, you've heard it here twice now. We just need to find a really good excuse to get Nick to move here. That's where the wine is down there, isn't it? The Yarra Valley. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where we're staying when we go down to Pro Raw at a llama farm.
What's the name of that place that you're staying at?
Well, I can't remember. I'll have to look it up and send it to you. And found it on Airbnb. It's a llama or an alpaca farm or something like that.
Yeah. The Yarra Valley is it's a decent amount of kilometers from
where you are. I'm sure there'll be a good gym around somewhere.
We'll find something.
Because yeah, M's pretty serious, so
good.
It's on the cards.
We'd love to hear that.
She even looked up universities the other day.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which ones was she looking at?
I don't know exactly what it was called, but apparently one of her friends, who's a dietitian, a sports dietitian, did her degree at one of the universities down there, and did her master's down there, and said it was really good. So she got excited about that. Dude, I had the best training session this morning that I think I've had in a really long time.
Why would you say it was like the best training session you've had in a while? Like, what was different?
I feel like I've been gaining momentum for the last few weeks, and I'm like getting more and more excited every week as like I can keep progressing things and I have less and less pain. So every day, like every week when I'm waking up for training and there's less pain, I get more excited. And so it's kind of like feeding into itself and getting more and more momentum. And then I started a new program today, which is always fun. And the program moved a little bit less, like a little bit more away from rehab and a little bit more into like actual training, with some like movement drills mixed in. And it was just really fun, dude. Like the session flowed really well. You know, when you just write a program and sometimes you do the session and you're like, oh, that's didn't really like work out the way that I had planned it on paper. It just wasn't that fun, or it didn't feel that good. Yeah. And then sometimes you do it and you're like, oh yeah, that's the magic.
Yeah.
Dude, I just did this session and everything, I loaded the things that I've been doing. I was able to load more. They felt better. I started with some like jumping running drills, which I was like, fuck, this is incredible. Like I didn't think I would ever be able to do this again, let alone now. There was no pain. Then like the floating heel lunge that I've been doing, I was able to load that an extra 10 kilos, which is like, like an extra 10 kilos from last week. That's huge.
Mm.
And then front squats, I did 105 kilos. It just like literally felt like an RP 0. I was like, whoa, this is pretty nice. Yeah. And then went and loaded the leg press, 5 plates per side, which is not heaps, but on the leg press we have, it feels really heavy. And 2, I haven't done that for a really long time. So that felt nice. Quads had a massive pump. Did those landmine RDLs. Glutes were just like, bro, what the hell are you doing? Screaming at me. And then I was like, okay, this is cool. And then did the 90-degree hip extension superset with the leg curls, and I was like, done. Sweet. Like my legs were cooked. My knees felt incredible all day. I was just driving home. I was on a massive high. It was just a really good session.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I don't know. It just feels really nice, man, to be able to actually train a session that I would consider like an actual proper training session, not just a rehab session.
Yeah.
To actually load things, to go close to failure on things, and to not have in the back of my head the whole time, oh, I hope my knee's okay. I didn't think about it at all until I was driving home, and I was like, oh, wow, my knee's actually not even hurting at all.
That's fucking awesome, dude.
It's just a really cool moment, considering the fact that literally in November, the guy said to me, you will not walk again for the rest of your life without pain unless you let me do this surgery. And you'll never squat again, regardless of if we do the surgery or not. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it's February, and fuck you, because I'm doing both.
I wonder if you could, like, send him an email or something, like, oh, fuck, Stick. You know how you said I would never be doing any of this shit pain-free again? Fuck you.
Yeah, it's just, and it's not even just like a fuck you, but it is like a fuck you, but I'm just so fucking happy.
You should be.
Like, it just makes me feel so good that I didn't give up. I didn't just listen to this guy because he had more education than me, or he was a doctor or whatever. I actually went home and thought about it, sat on it for a couple of weeks, had some conversations with you, had some conversations with Em, had a few conversations with Will, and came to the conclusion that I think I also talked to Tommy from Strength Tribe a couple of times.
Yeah.
And after all of those conversations, I said to Em, I think that I know enough that I can make this work and get myself back to moving around pain-free without doing this surgery. And she was like, are you sure? Because like that guy was pretty adamant that you like have to do it. And I said, I know, you know, she was good enough to trust me. And I just said to her, can you just give me 3 months? Like, I'm not going to enter the paperwork to go on the list. Can you just give me 3 months? And if it's not fixed by the start of April, I'll enter the paperwork and I'll get it done at the end of the year. And she was like, yeah. And here we are. And it's like, I'm so happy that I don't have to do it.
That's awesome, man.
I mean, I'm going to have to do it at some point.
Yeah.
But if I can put that off and for as long as possible, that's obviously the best option.
Yeah.
It's a really invasive surgery. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just really fun, man. It's had me on a high all day.
That's awesome, dude.
I think it just really speaks to the fact that there is options most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to take a minute to think about it and try and figure it out. Think about things on a little bit of a deeper level.
Okay.
You've been a pretty integral part in that process as well, which I appreciate.
Thank you. Happy to do my part.
Always challenging.
That's what friends do.
I feel like that should be a shirt that Ben makes.
Always challenging.
Do you mind if I challenge you?
Yeah, look, probably.
Do you mind if I challenge you on that?
Listen here, you little fuck.
Yeah, exactly. You're so polite about it. I know what you're saying, though, under your breath.
Fuck it.
Fucking this cunt wants to max out again.
Coach, why aren't I stronger? Why am I still sore?
Hey, I haven't said that for a long time.
I know, because I would have fucking slapped you by now if you had.
I used to say that.
I know. That used to be like 80% of our conversations.
I know.
You're like, bro, I had a good session, but I'm so sore.
Yeah, I can't move my arm.
Take my strong hand.
I was like, Ben, I'm done squatting. Can you unrack the weights for me? Because I can't lift my arms up to the bar.
Everybody feared the T-Rex.
Yeah, I haven't done that for a long time. I sent you a video the other day of me putting my arm above my head. That's how excited I was.
Yeah.
Crazy. Crazy times.
Mm-hmm.
And Em's very happy that I can move a little bit better.
I bet she is.
What did you get up to on the weekend? Anything exciting?
I had 2 sessions on Saturday morning, which is a bit of fun. I had, so I've had like an ex-client start up again for like a couple of months just to sort of get some things moving in the right direction again. And then I had an old client, like just come in for a consult. She's like, oh, I'm having all these troubles with like, like some trap bar deadlifts and some like B stance RDLs. And it's funny, like we've done a few sessions like this where we catch up for a consult. Like we've worked together previously, like every single week. So now when she books in for consults, it's usually just like she's having a few issues, just needs like a fine tune.
Mm-hmm.
She literally walks in, she's like, oh look, I don't know if I need to be doing more of this or more of that with my trap bar deadlifts. I'm like, that. And she's like, okay, cool. And it's like we have a look at her B stance deadlift. So I'm like, all you need to do is like this one small adjustment. And she's like, oh, is that it? I'm like, yeah.
You're welcome.
She always laughs. She's like, we always have these sessions where like I've tried for weeks to try and like problem solve something. She's like, you literally will come in and within like 10 minutes of an hour session have pretty much fixed my problems. I'm like, yeah.
Efficient.
It's not rocket science.
Efficient.
Like, for example, like her B stance RDLs. We've spoken about like people when they do anything unilateral and they drop into like a negative shin angle.
Mm-hmm.
She was doing that like really severely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all you need to do is just like keep your shin angle neutral, and that will change everything about this range. She did it, and she was literally like, "My God,
oh, makes a huge difference, hey."
Yeah, and I'm like, and she's like, so she's worked with coaches in the past before, like before me, and like they would, be like, oh, well, you've got to do your minimum 16 weeks with me, whatever it ended up fucking being. And she would get to like the end of that 16 weeks and she's like, I'm still having pain with movements that I had in week 1. And then like when we started working together, she's like, oh, look, when I do my deadlifts, like I get a bit of like discomfort in my lower back. When I do back extensions, I always feel in my lower back, like I don't feel my glutes, my hamstrings at all. I can't do hip thrusts because I just feel it in my lower back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, cool. I'm like, do you want to be able to do these movements? She's like, well, yeah. She's like, I enjoy doing them, but she's like, I just can't do them very well because like it just goes to my lower back and I can only load it to like this point. And within like a few sessions, it was like, all right, cool. Like you now deadlift like 90 to 100 kilos as like a 54 kilo woman who's got 2 young kids.
Nice.
So that's, nearing up around that sort of, double body weight mark for someone who's like a fucking teacher.
Yeah.
And then just like repositioning a few things on a back extension. It's like, cool. You're being taught how to do a back extension using your back. It's not how we want you to do a back extension, despite what the name suggests. Like we don't want to use the back that much.
No. Man, you'd be surprised how many people you have to explain that to, huh?
I mean, to be fair though, like the name kind of does blur the lines a little bit because you think, well, back extension, I'm using my back to extend.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I had 2 really good sessions there. And then I end up having to drive my grandparents out to their holiday house on Saturday afternoon and then drive them back on Sunday.
Nice. That's fun. You don't get to see them as much anymore, do you?
Not as much as obviously like this time last year when I was living next door to them. But I still try and make an active effort to pop in like once a week.
Yeah, cool. Look at you. Good grandson.
Trying not to be a shit cunt.
Failing.
Literally. How was yours?
um, I was just thinking, yeah, it was pretty good. Oh, dude, it was good. We went on Saturday. We had the group strength session, the crew training
Yep.
that I've been putting up on Instagram about. Man, that was so good. There was such a good turnout. Way better than I expected. Like I said, like I've been saying on Instagram, I love crew training. I love footy training. The thing I loved about footy training was having the boys around and kind of all doing it together and having that really high vibe, high energy environment. I feel like it makes those really tough sessions a lot more fun when you're not just in it alone.
Hmm.
And I feel like there's something really special that comes out of that as well when you go through those sessions with other people. It's a different kind of bond that you form with them. It's like, and I guess it's probably similar to what you would get in the military in active duty, but obviously like a lot scaled down, but like a similar type of concept where it's like you're going through these hardships together, even though you're choosing to do them in the moment they feel really tough, and you're doing it with someone else, and I feel like you can bond over that, and it's quite special.
Yeah.
And we had such a good crew turn up. One guy came in, got a 7.5 kilo PR on his deadlift, 280. He'd been sick all week, lost 3 kilos from throwing up.
Nice.
So like very suboptimal conditions. Just
Yeah.
came in and just yeeted a massive PR, which was awesome. And the energy for that was huge. Em was upstairs doing a nutrition consult at the time with a powerlifter, and both of them, I went like full send on the hype for that one. And I was like, like I turned the music up to 60, which is super loud in our gym. Like the big subwoofer was like blowing the doors off.
Good.
And I was just screaming at the top of my lungs nonstop at this guy. And then everyone else joined in, obviously. And so the vibe was huge. And both the girls upstairs kind of looked at each other and they're like, that sounds like a meet down there. It was like
Nice.
proper huge energy. So that was really fun. And that was pretty close to the start of the session.
Yeah.
And that just kind of set the tone. Then everyone was really psyched, and there's a lot of good stuff. I got to teach a lot of people a lot of things, which I really thoroughly enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everyone got something really cool out of it. So that was awesome, man. That's probably been the highlight of my year so far. It was just, yeah, it was such a cool session. We're going to do it again next weekend. That's how good it was.
Fuck yeah.
And then from there, we went out to this winery to do a wine tasting that M found. And okay, so to preface this, my favorite cuisine in the entire planet is French.
Okay.
Okay, like I love French restaurants. I love French food. It's anything French. I love French wine. Like anything French, I'm all for it. French cheese, absolutely. So this is the only French restaurant in the valley. We haven't been yet because we only just found out about it. They have a winery attached to it as well. So we went to the winery for a wine tasting. Dude, every wine that we tasted was off the charts good. So we ended up joining the wine club there. We got a cheese board with the tasting from the restaurant from the French restaurant. The cheeses were like legit great. We booked into the French restaurant for lunch next weekend, and then on the way home we stopped, and then we bought a bottle of wine from that winery because we're like, this is great. Like we cannot leave without this.
Mm-hmm.
Stopped it on the way home at the cheese shop, bought 2 really nice French cheeses, and then Sunday night had a cheese board with the wine that we bought from the winery on Saturday. Weekend made.
Fuck yeah.
Dude, it was really good.
That's awesome, man.
There's actually really, really good. So I'm looking forward to going to that French restaurant next weekend.
I feel like next Monday's episode we're gonna have a fun recap because I'll be going to Jackalope over the weekend as well.
Oh, that's this weekend coming?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to have to compare photos.
Oh, dude, I'm so fucking pumped.
Yeah, tell me about that because I looked up at that. I looked that place up on Instagram, dude. It looks intensely good.
It is. So, a good mate of mine's getting married, and that's where they're getting married.
Nice.
So I mean, like, I feel like I'm really excited to see what the menu is. I feel like that's just gonna be off its tits.
Yeah, it will. Trust me, I looked. The
Yeah.
food there looks so good.
And then obviously, like, I'm hoping like the wine and stuff is like elite as well.
It will be.
Which again, I would imagine they'll probably have wine from their winery paired with all the food.
Yeah.
And then I'm also fortunate enough I get to stay there as well, which I'm really looking forward to.
Do you like staying in hotels?
I really do.
Yeah, me too.
Like, there's something about it that just feels like so like scandalous and cheeky.
It's nice. Hey, I actually really like staying in hotels.
Yeah, like I think it depends on the hotel. Like, there are some hotels I've stayed where I'm like, get me the fuck out of here. But given this is such a luxury, like, hotel and like a luxury winery, I'm like, and I've looked at the photos of the accommodation. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be upset.
No, I don't think you're going to be upset either. It looks really nice.
I don't want to leave. I'll be like holding on to the bed, and like, you can't make me leave.
Like, no, I live here now.
Like, I'm part of the furniture.
What's the squatting laws? Once you're in a place for a certain amount of time, you technically own it.
It's like, if you're going to remove me from the room, good luck.
Yeah, I'm staying here until I own it.
I'll go full Britney. I'll shave my head, and I'll be like, "You can't take me." So if you see me on the news on Saturday afternoon, that's why.
It's not a massive jump.
No, it's really not.
It's a small step to get to that crazy.
Oh, that's like a step backwards. Really.
Yeah, you've gone past it.
Yeah, I've like evolved into a new level of psycho.
It's hidden.
Yeah.
Did anyone ever tell you? You know when you were doing those? Let me tell you a secret things on Instagram.
Yeah. I've got so many of those saved.
You look like who's that actor that that's like he's a really good actor, but he's kind of creepy in almost everything. Not creepy, but a little bit crazy. Jack Nicholson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nicholas is the golfer, right? Jack Nicholson. Did anyone ever tell you kind of look like him?
No.
No, you do a little bit.
Okay. Interesting.
Just when you do the crazy things.
So pretty much everything.
Yeah, everything you do.
We have fun.
That's all right. Do you want to talk about benching? Seeing as how you benched today?
Fuck yeah, man.
All right. Do you want to give us a little bend the definition, man? Do you want to give us a little definition about what bench is?
Bench is when you lay down on a bench.
A bench.
And you unrack the barbell, you lower it down to your chest, and you press it back up for a very, very basic explanation.
Yeah, a barbell. You said barbell, right?
Well, I mean, if you're doing a bench press, it's either going to be a barbell bench press or a dumbbell bench press.
Yeah.
But regardless of which implement you use, it's still a bench press.
Yeah, you're laying on the bench and lowering the weight to your chest and then pressing it back up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So if that's what
we'll see you next week, guys.
Yeah, cool. So quick episode. Moving on. Next week we'll talk about deadlifts.
You pick the bar up off the floor.
So we will get to some questions that we had about bench press. I don't know if you saw those, but I put them into the shared note just before I jumped on.
I didn't see those, but
before we get to those, I guess we could kind of run through. Um, bench press is obviously the second of three lifts in if you're a competitive powerlifter that you have to complete. So I think we could probably go through competition standards for the bench press, and then out of those competition standards, what would we use for maybe like the general population, if at all we would use them, and then we can kind of just see what rabbit holes we go down from there, because I'm sure there'll be a few. So competition standards of a bench press. Go for it.
So obviously, in terms of grip width, on a standard comp bar, the knurling line is going to be set like 81 centimeters apart.
Mm-hmm.
Your grip has to be inside that, so you can go as far as like, index finger on that line. Obviously, then have some people who do like jab grip, where they try and like really like crank into like huge amounts of internal rotation to essentially be able to go a little bit wider than that without actually being called for it.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, that's kind of like the widest leg grip you can take. Bar arm racks, pretty much you need to have your feet set, thumb on the bench, and be holding the bar in a nice steady position to get your start call from the head ref. You get your start call, you've got to lower the bar down to a dead stop on the chest. Once you have shown that you're at a complete dead stop, then you get a press call. Pretty much for the press call, it needs to go from that point directly up without any downwards motion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for every single person except for me, your bum has to stay on the bench.
Yours doesn't. You're special.
Mike can come this far off.
Any further and you get reds, though.
Dude, I could have like hip thrust.
You did.
I know. But like, I could have like really fucking sent it, and I probably still would have got that. So obviously, like, bar's going to go from the chest to a locked out position where you then have to wait for your rack call.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously don't rack it before you get that call. Otherwise, all of your hard work is for nothing.
For nothing. Yep. And then depending on the federation that you compete in, you can have your heels up or you have to have your heels down.
Yep. And then obviously IPF now has that stupid fucking like elbow depth rule.
Yeah.
Which is so stupid.
Are people getting called for that?
It'll be interesting to see, like, because I know some people have been called for it.
Yeah, okay.
But it'll be very interesting to see how long it takes them to then turn around and go, well, we're now going to introduce a rule where you've got to meet a certain distance requirement for your deadlift.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of talk about that when the bench thing happened. I just feel like that elbow rule is...
But
it sounds to me like it would be really hard to judge.
It would be. Like, I think unless... Like, even if you look at, like, IPF depth, it's a bit much.
I agree.
Like, when you look at the rule books and it's like the hip crease needs to be below the top of the knee, like, that's really not that hard to assess. But you get these people that are having to go, like, that far below to make it, like, beyond doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like, when you look at the rule book, like, if, like, obviously feds may have small differences, but for the most part, the rule book will stipulate, like, hip crease needs to be below the top of the knee in the squat. If there's a position where you're like, oh, I'm not really sure if that was or wasn't, it's meant to go in favor of the lifter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what it says in the rule books.
That just doesn't happen as often as it should, though.
No, but that's where I, like, some of it I would look at and go, borderline, okay, maybe the ref's going, like, I'm not 100% sure, I have to give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like it's pretty easy to tell if someone's high.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like, oh, I'm not really sure. Like, this is where, and again, like, I know powerlifting is a relatively new sport and there's not a lot of money in it yet, but like when you look at like say cricket for example, and they're like, oh, like we're not sure if that was out or not, and they go like to their their third umpire, and they do all the like the technology shit to go, well, was there any connection of the ball on the bat as they went through? Like it may have just been a small nick. They've got like the audio sensors, they've got like heat marks and all that sort of stuff where they can actually go, well, we can use technology to determine like is this person actually out or not, or are they still in? I think if powerlifting grows to a point where they're able to sit there and go, well, we can go to like a fourth referee where we bring it up on the big screen, and they can go to a point where they can run like markers and lines and shit and go, well, here's the top of the knee here. The hip crease has to be here. You actually hit there, you're good.
Yeah. It would be cool if, and I don't think this would ever happen at like local meets or anything, but let's think about like national level meets, for example, when there is some money on the line or titles on the line, and it's a little bit like, okay, like we want to get the calls right here. This is important. It means something. How cool would it be if you could have just say you get 2 challenges per meet. The lifter gets 2 challenges per meet. And like you said, then it can go up to a big screen. And if you get the, like in NRL, right? Like if you get the challenge wrong, you lose the challenge. If you get the challenge right, you keep both challenges.
Yeah.
And you move through the meet. And say at the start of the day, every lifter is on their soft suit or just under their soft suit. They get little sensors put on their hip joint and on their knee, and then literally as they're squatting, there would be no subjectivity to it at all. You could literally pull it up and be like, yep, the hip sensors have gone past the knee sensors. That's a good squat.
I feel like maybe at things like so obviously like Sheffield's on next weekend, which I'm really fucking pumped to watch.
Yeah, me too.
Because like there's going to be some outrageously strong lifts.
Mm-hmm.
But if at an event like that, they're like, you know what, we've obviously got a lot of money on the line for this comp. If then like a sports institute was like, hey, look, we're going to sponsor the event. We're going to bring like our sports science teams in. We're going to kit everyone up with this stuff here. It would obviously then just be a matter of like making sure that obviously they can process the data at a rate where they don't have to be like, oh, well, we now have to take the data away and like process it and all that.
That stuff's pretty instant.
Yeah.
It would just be a matter of like if they could get it hooked up, but there'd be no reason why they couldn't. It'd just cost a bit of money. Dude, I reckon that would be so cool.
It would be, and like it'll be very interesting to see if that is the direction that powerlifting takes to try and legitimize it a little bit more. Because I mean, like, as good as it, like, and this is again like without trying to go down like a massive rabbit hole.
No, go.
Like, there's one ref in Australia that I'm like brutal, but fair.
Mm.
Did you ever meet Scott Wasson from?
I've never met him, but I know who he is.
Yeah, so like he would ref at like big dogs.
Yeah, we've got his trophy in our gym at the moment.
Yeah, but like obviously like when you've got those big boys squatting, like it can sometimes be pretty hard to be like,
yeah, the big boys are tough. Yeah,
like it looks like they're high as all hell, but like there's just a lot of mass.
Yeah,
he was like the one ref that you would see. He would like get out of his chairs and like sprawl on the ground and be like looking for like every fucking angle that he possibly could. Like that reffing there, I'm like, that's the reffing I like.
Yeah,
like, I remember at Pro Raw, I think it was 11 maybe, when I squatted 280 for the first time. I had one of the refs come up to me after the squats were all finished, and he was like, because I was like, 280 for me at the time was a PB, and he's like, dude, he goes, that was a really good squat, like gave me a fist bump. I was like, oh, thanks, man. He goes, but you were this close to getting a red. I'm like,
sounds
so
perfect
what
then.
Saying is that was a perfect squat.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's like, well, yeah, I guess so. He was like, you just bang on. You're like exactly where you had to be. I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
perfect.
Exactly.
I'm sensational. Thank you very much. But like,
Scott was from Brisbane, right?
yeah, he
Yeah,
helped with all the fabrications for all the Valhalla stuff and all that sort of stuff.
yeah. I think because I've had a conversation with someone recently about how good Queensland States is for GPC,
Scott,
and their response was that was Scott that built that up to what it is now, because that even to today, like that GPC Queensland States sells out like quick
yeah,
within a day.
yeah. But like, I think sort of coming back, obviously, like to the point about like bench press depth and that sort of thing. I think it's going to get to a point where it's going to be a little bit arbitrary based on the judge. There are going to be some judges who are like, no, like I want to see like the elbow being like below the shoulder. There are some that are going to be like, I want to see it in line with. There are going to be some that are going to be like, I want to just see it hit that point and press back up. I personally think it's a pretty stupid rule. Like the way that I look at powerlifting is, I'm like, especially when you look at deadlifts and you get a deadlift specialist, you know, these are arguably people that may have been like ridiculed when they were kids because of their leverages, and they're like just lanky as fuck, and they've now found a sport where they can actually utilize those to their advantage.
Yeah.
But if I look at, you know, bringing in like a depth rule for bench and a depth rule for like squats is what it is. I think that's an appropriate rule, but I think
I think so too.
I think bringing in, say, like if they go, hey, well, for deadlifts, there needs to be a minimum of 4 inches of range of motion for it to be considered legal. I think the moment they start going down that rabbit hole, I feel like they're going to implode from the inside out. And
I agree.
May even go to other feds. But I look at it and I go, it would be like playing a game of basketball in the NBA and then going, well, anyone who's over 6'10" has to play on their own ring that's off to the side. Everyone else can shoot on the normal size ring. But if you're 6'10" and above, like I can't remember what the guy's name is, but he's like this really, really young kid who's like 7'3" or something like that.
Is it the guy that you kept sending me? Is it Wembayana?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like he literally doesn't even need to jump so he can dunk.
Dude, he's so big.
But I'm like, he's big, but he's fucking athletic too. Like,
yeah,
the kid moves really well. Like, he's got really good ball skills. And you see some of the games they play against where like him and the other center they play against, like they have like one-on-one scrimmage matches, and he like fake off to one side, like do like a reverse spin, and like just like reach out and like dunk from the fucking like free throw line. It's like watching Michael Jordan in like Space Jam when he goes for like the big dunk and he stretches his arm out. That's him, but in real life.
Yeah, he's a massive cheat code.
Yeah, but like imagine if they said to him, "Hey man, you're actually like your leverages aren't fair to play in the NBA. We now have to put you on a special ring, where it's, you know, instead of it being like a 10-foot ring or whatever the fuck it is, we're actually going to make this one like 12 foot, and we're going to make the ring a little bit smaller, so it's actually harder for you to make a shot."
Yeah, it's just not fair.
People just look at that and go, "What the actual fuck are you doing? That is just fucking stupid."
Yeah. But no one questions it when it's powerlifting.
Yeah, like,
well, actually, a lot of people have questioned it.
Yeah, like, but obviously, like, you know, when you're looking at like a thing as big as the NBA is, like, how many billions of dollars is that thing worth?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, like, I don't think they're going to turn around and go, "Oh, we're going to introduce stupid rules." I think powerlifting is still young enough where they can afford to do potentially like some stupid moves. But I mean, like, this is the other thing that like I keep coming back to is like how many people that aren't involved in powerlifting will share videos of like someone who can get to like this huge arch and their range is literally just like.
Yeah, but that's I don't know. I mean, you just look at the comments on every bench video that Pro Raw puts up on their Facebook page, and
like you watch Jen Smith bench double bodyweight, and people are like, "She's gonna break her back arching that hard."
Yeah.
Like, oh, she only moved the bar 2 inches. What even is that? Like, that's not a bench press. And it's like,
well, it actually is.
It's like, yeah, you're just getting your fucking panties in a twist because you're getting out benched by a chick that weighs probably fucking half of what you do.
Yeah, but I think that's a really good distinction to make between maybe like a competition style bench press for powerlifting versus Are you wanting to bench to make your chest bigger? Are you benching for hypertrophy? If so, that's probably not the best way to go about it. I would
But I
probably
think as
just.
well, like there are obviously going to be some competitors that are going to use physics to their absolute advantage, and they're going to go to the nth degree to go, how much can I maximize my positioning? How much can I maximize joint angles and all that kind of shit to be able to maximize the amount of load that I can lift? Even if there may be some higher risk categories and higher risk profiles to sort of be associated with those,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that's an informed choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have standards that I will start. Like if someone comes to me and they're like, "How want to do powerlifting?" I have a standard that I'm like, "Cool, this is where you start
Mm-hmm.
until you build a decent enough base of pressing strength, and then if your leverages allow for it and your mobility and your control within those ranges is good enough, then we can potentially look at starting to explore some of these more like specific style conflicts. Like I had a client of mine back in like 2021. Like I was like, cool, like I'm going to start you with like a mid grip bench. I'm going to start you with a conventional deadlift, and I'm going to start you with like high bar squats. But looking at her move, I'm like, she will absolutely fucking thrive off a low bar squat. She will probably thrive off a wide grip bench, and I know for sure she's going to thrive off a sumo.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, I don't care yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think of any other sport you've ever played in your entire life. When you're first getting into a sport, you spend the first however many months, years, whatever, learning fundamentals.
Exactly.
And then you get to a point like, think of like, say, jiu-jitsu as an example. Like, how long do you have to spend as a fucking white belt before they go, here, you are rewarded with a blue belt. And then you
Mm-hmm.
get a promotion from there to the next level. And then you get taught more, and then you get better. Like for
Yep.
most sports, there's that natural progression of like, hey, you've reached this level. Now you've got to do X, Y, and Z to reach this level. In powerlifting, people come in and they're like, oh, I've never been to a gym before and I've never done powerlifting before, but I need to be doing the stuff that the most elite advanced people do because I'm a fucking special snowflake.
Yeah. And because I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, I want someone to have a good understanding of like, can you stabilize your scapulas while you're pressing in a general range? Because if you can't, we probably have things that we need to address. Because if you can't dumbbell press here without doing like these ones, the moment I put you out here, it's probably just going to be exacerbated even more.
Yep. Yep. I like that. I was literally, as you were saying that, I was thinking about football. You know, like football's a good analogy for me because I played it so much growing up. But you know, you see these guys that when they tackle, they lead a little bit more with their head. Their feet leave the ground right before impact, and they just kind of like launch into the player, the attacking player, and just like Sonny Bill Williams, great example. Victor Radley, Adrian Morley, three of my favorite players of all time. Just brutally when they defend. Then that's not textbook. That's not how you get taught when you're 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. You get taught the fundamentals of defending and how to tackle properly and safely and efficiently. And then when you're advanced at that, you can start experimenting on different things that might be more advantageous to you as an individual, but you have the base to grow from.
Yeah, but this is the thing of like that gives me the shits about the fitness industry and about powerlifting is everyone goes, oh, I'm doing this niche sport with these niche coaches who are like, oh, well, I've done 2 comps, I'm going to be a powerlifting coach. And it's like, what business do you have coaching people and taking money for it when you have no experience?
Mm-hmm.
Like again, I have no issue with people being like, hey, look, I would love to get into powerlifting competitions and I would love to become a coach, but it's like, cool, build skill, build time, like build the attributes that are actually going to make you a good coach and do it for free.
Yeah. I think the hardest part about this topic with people like thinking that they're ready for the more advanced positions, like even like low bar or benching with a really wide grip are two of the ones that come to mind straight off the top of my head. Is it's the same with nutrition, right?
Yeah.
Because if you've gone to the gym a few times, maybe for a year or two, because you're going to the gym, you think, well, I train. If my brother or my sister or my friend or my aunt or whatever asks me what I've done to get results, I'm going to tell them, when in reality you don't really know what you're talking about just because you go to the gym. You know, everyone eats food, so therefore everyone becomes an expert on nutrition, when in reality there's a lot more to it than just putting shit in your mouth or not putting shit in your mouth and losing some weight. This goes a lot deeper, and it goes a lot deeper with this too. Like, where you grab the bar matters, where you put the bar on your back matters. And if you're not ready for those positions, it can do a lot more damage than good.
Like, don't get me wrong, there are going to be people that are just beautifully suited to benching with like a wide grip, because that's just what their biomechanics is better suited towards. And that might be a matter where you go, well, I'm going to give them their bench press and it's all going to be that grip, because it lines up that fucking nicely that we really don't want variation with our bench variation. But it's like, I still want them to be able to do dips. I still want them to be able to do dumbbell pressing. I still want them to be able to do like basic movement stuff that is going to then support that bench press being even stronger. Like, for example, I see this a lot with, like, in particular, like lightweight females, is they'll get into these positions where they're like, you know, as wide as they can legally grip, they're arched like a croissant, and they're just like, bang, and they, like, you know, they might bench like 80 kilos at 50 or whatever it is. Massive benches. Like, not taking away from that being like a phenomenal feat of strength, because frankly it is. But it's like, you ask them to do a dumbbell press and they're like, I can press like the 12s.
Yeah.
Like,
so
that doesn't add up. Like,
it doesn't add up.
Dumbbell presses up to like 22s, 25s, and to something where you actually like, I'm actually being able to press and I've got some genuine strength there. Then when you go back to this, you'll probably find that 80 is something that you now rep.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just going to say is, that position's allowing you to be extremely strong. But this is just, that's a perfect example of what we were talking about last week or the week before, where people are just like kind of missing the forest for the trees and over techniquing and just forgetting to actually get strong in the process.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're really, really, really strong in these positions because you're gifted genetically and you're able to get yourself in these positions, or you've worked really hard and you're able to get yourself in these positions, and your technique is beautiful and you can move a lot of weight, and that's fucking awesome. But if you were then to go and work really hard on your accessories and get strong in those different positions like you were just talking about, how much stronger could you be with that technique?
And this is something that I see with powerlifters across the board. And this is why, like, at the moment, like, in particular, like, and again, just to sort of like make it about me again, with my training at the moment, in terms of like, cool, like, nothing is comp spec for me at the moment. It's like, I still squat, I still bench, and I still deadlift, but like, I'm doing it in a way where I'm actually able to train some like really awesome output, but I'm also utilizing my accessories to really stimulate adaptation, that then I can track the metrics and go, well, am I getting enough stimulus in the main work here to facilitate the adaptation and the progression each week? And are my accessories here being pushed and like appropriately hard enough to help them facilitate this being pushed up at the same rate? Like, for example, like last week I dumbbell pressed the 42s.
Hell yeah.
This week it was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to go to the 47s. And I was like, cool. Like, I still got my rep range. It was just a little bit harder this week, obviously, because of my neck and like a different bench, which meant that it was a different like height setting, like a hard height setting. But it's like, cool. I still progressed my dumbbells. But it was like, cool. I can just chase relative difficulty, because if I'm still pushing within proximity of that challenge, I'm going to be getting adaptation.
Yeah, 100%. And so, perfect. I had this exact conversation or similar conversation with Em today. So Mondays are my programming day for a big chunk of my clients, mostly 80% of my comp clients are on Mondays, and I have some that are later in the week with my Gen Pop clients I do later in the week as well. And so I did M's program today. And so when you lived up here, I think you were in the gym for one of M's 100 kilo deadlift attempts that she couldn't get off the ground.
Yep.
We stopped deadlifting after that. And we did good choice. And we did a few different variations just to like take the focus off deadlifting for a little while. They were still deadlift variations, but the load was a little bit less. The difficulty was a little bit higher. They were working on different aspects within the deadlift that I felt like she needed to work on. Her accessories, because she's a ex-bikini competitor, she always pushes her accessories really hard. That's something that I never have to tell her to do. She just does. I just program what I want her to work on and she goes hard. Went to comp, got a PB. Then we went after comp. She went away from deadlifting again and went to deficit paused for a little while. And then she went to just paused off the ground. And then she went back to conventional deadlifts, normal like comp style conventional deadlifts for the last block. And she finished that last block last week with 4 sets of 5 at 115.
Yeah, which is fucking massive.
Massive, dude. That in less than 12 months. Like, that's huge. And that was a single at 100 that she failed.
Yeah, and to now be repping out like
and
not 1 or 2 reps, like 5s.
Yeah, 4 sets of 5.
Yeah.
And so then, so massive. And she was like, oh, this is really good. I'm making heaps of progress. To then today I send her a program and I've taken comp deadlifts out for this block and comp squats out as well. And she has a variation of deadlifts and a variation of squats that are going to be significantly less load, but the position is going to be really challenged. And she's like, oh, will I still make progress? Because like I feel like I was getting really strong. And I was like, yeah, you're going to make more progress because this is going to challenge the positions where you're failing. And you'll get really strong there. And then when you get back to your comp lifts, you should be better.
This is the other thing that as well that I feel like a lot of coaches and a lot of people kind of miss the bat on for the sake of progress is they just try and force adaptation rather than allowing, like, facilitating it.
Yeah, I love that saying.
Like, the one area where I see it in particular, and don't get me wrong, like, I've been guilty of this at times as well, but, like, if I'm prepping for something, it's like, it should be planned out and it should be quite meticulous and you should have enough data to make informed decisions. But, like, and obviously not being in a comp prep at the moment, like, I've got the frames to be able to like go, well, this block may end up being 2 weeks. It may end up being 3 weeks. It may end up being 6 weeks. It just depends on how long I can keep squeezing this out for. But, like, for example, like, I sit there, I'm like, cool. I always like to be really like, I know people love, like, RPE for their top sets. I'm like, I love percentage-based work for my top sets. If the max that we're working with is relatively recent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if let's say we're coming off a comp or we did it 2 months ago, it's like, hey, we're going back into prep now. We can still use that number as a pretty good baseline and go, hey, well, we can do, sets and reps at 75%. We're probably going to get pretty fucking strong doing that.
Yeah.
Like, again, going back to like the unspoken times here in Victoria when we were in lockdown for fucking 600 years.
Yeah.
I had a client of mine who only had access to 180 kilos worth of weight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his best deadlift was like 220. And I'm like, cool. We are just going to do sets and reps with like really sub-max work.
Mm-hmm.
First session when gyms reopened, he messaged me, he's like, hey dude, I'm going to be going to the gym tomorrow night. Can I max out my deadlift?
Yeah, go for it.
And I was like, yes, you can. Because actually, no, sorry, his best deadlift I think was 225.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, oh, like, can I max out my deadlift? I'm like, yeah, man, like, you've been training really consistently, like, you hit some really good volume. Like, I kind of want you to think of this as like around about a 9. It doesn't need to be an absolute. There was no kilos left in the tank. Like, make it pretty hard. And he pulled 232.5.
Nice.
And he weighed like 81 kilos or something like that. Like, he was light, so
Yeah.
very much nearing that sort of 3 times body weight territory. But he did all that off sub max work.
Yeah.
And then like, how often do you see people when they do a prep now, and they're like, oh well, I want to hit my third competence in training so that I know I can do it.
A lot of people, and I don't agree with it, but
I think it's one of the silliest approaches to training.
100%. But I do think there's a huge merit in doing heavies, but just not so heavy that you can't recover from it, or that you put yourself into too big of a hole in it and it actually makes you go backwards.
Yeah.
But it's like I also see a fair bit recently on the flip side of what you just said, where people are prepping, and this is a completely different topic, but we're going down the rabbit hole. I don't give a fuck.
Let's do it.
People are prepping with high reps and not doing any heavy, and they're like literally, I saw this the other day. The most optimal rep range for strength is 7, and that's what we prep on. And I was like, yeah, like that's cool. Like you're going to get stronger, but then what happens when you unrack a heavy single and you fucking shit the bed because it's 7 times heavier than what you used to?
See, like my first nationals that I did, my last heavy session was a heavy 2x2.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do any singles in that prep.
Yeah, but 2's a little bit different to 7.
Absolutely. Like I would imagine that, like, I mean, like if I look at like some of the clients that I prep, probably anywhere between 3 and 8 weeks out is when they'll start singles. Obviously, depending on how skilled they are, how much exposure they actually need.
Yeah, and obviously the higher skill level you are, the less exposure you need to the singles because you already have the skill. And doing a single rep, a heavy single, is actually a skill.
Yeah.
So it's like the less skilled you are, likely the more you have to do in the lead up.
But I would also just look at like relative load that's being used as well.
It's going to be a lot less.
Like at the end of the day, like singles don't get people stronger. Reps
No,
do.
you just get better at doing the single though.
Yeah, but it's like that's where I would probably be like, let's do your heavy rep work, and then I might give you some practice singles at like an RPE 8. Mm-hmm. Which by the time we factor in fatigue and all those other things, you're probably going to end up working with the same weight that you've used for your rep work, but now you're just reinforcing and ingraining skill acquisition.
Yeah, just not a bad way of doing it.
But I look at it and I go, well, what's going to get my athletes stronger? Is me stroking their ego at the start of the session, be like, yes, of course, I can let you go and bench 140, even though your best bench ever is 140, but we're going to just fucking yeet it and YOLO and see what happens.
No, I think that's a horrible idea. But I do also think from a powerlifter's like buy-in perspective, doing a progressively heavy single each week, that's not like a 1 RM single, but like getting progressively heavier for a certain amount of time, or a heavy set, even if it's a double. Yeah. I'm using a lot of doubles at the moment for one of my athletes who's currently 7 weeks out. It gets good buy-in, right? Like powerlifters love lifting heavy stuff. So it's like, go and do this heavy double and then do the rep work that I want you to do after that. And then they're like, okay, I'm happy now because I got to do a heavy double, which isn't a max effort, but it progressively gets heavier each week. So they feel like I'm getting stronger. Yeah. And then you can give them the stuff that you want to do after that. Yeah.
And like, I was like, having done this for long enough, like I understand like that buy-in aspect, especially with newer clients.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is like when you get like, say, a intermediate / somewhat advanced client who comes in, they're like, hey, look, these are what my numbers are, but I want to do the exact same thing I've been doing for years with no progress.
You're like, well, yeah, go, no.
So, like, what's the fucking point? Like, like for something to change, something needs to change.
Yep.
If you're not willing to let go of what you believe to be the best approach, because that's what you've been running for years and you haven't made any progress, then why the fuck would we keep doing that?
Of course, that's just insanity.
Yeah, and that's where, like, if I was to ever prep again, I genuinely think I would probably outsource it
Hmm.
just because I'm like, I don't want to have to think.
Yeah, dude. I'm a big advocate for that. I'm doing my own programming now, but when it comes to prep, I won't be doing my own prep.
Yeah. And that's also because like I don't want to have to fall into the whole thing of being like, oh well, things aren't feeling good today, or things are feeling pretty good today. I'm just gonna fucking yeet it. I
Mm.
want like someone to be able to go, I don't care if you feel good or bad, this is just what you have to hit today.
Yeah, there's no emotional attachment to the numbers for an outside person at all. It's literally
Yeah.
just like, this is what it is. This is what you're going to do. Move on. Whereas, you and I have had plenty of conversations where it's like, okay, I'm so emotionally attached to the outcomes here that you kind of sometimes can get a little bit lost.
Yeah.
In an off season, not so much, but like even just with my rehab programming, I was like, I kind of just want to do everything because I'm so emotionally attached and I just want to get better. But it's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to leave anything out, but I also can't be in the gym for 4 hours. So it's like,
And that,
okay, let's prioritize what we need to prioritize and leave out what we can't. It's just so much harder when it's yourself.
yeah, and I mean like, but at the same time, like when you are doing it for yourself, you get a degree of feedback that no one else will ever get. And
100.
that's like you go, well, how am I feeling today? Like, does my body feel good? It's like, yeah, it feels good. I can probably try and test the waters a little bit within the realms of that rehab and go, well, I might work with, a 5% increase on this exercise because I feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one way that you're going to be able to figure out if you're progressing or not, and that's to kind of like re-establish where those boundary lines are and go, well, is that increasing and is that growing? And if it is, it's like, cool, the stuff I'm doing is probably within the realms of like the correct thing for me.
Yeah.
But it's when you then go, oh, like I'm rehabbing like a niggly back. Oh, it's feeling pretty good. I'm going to go and try and pull 200. Oh, I just hurt myself again. It's like, dickhead. Like,
Yeah. Shouldn't have done that.
yeah, it's like, even if I look at my progress with my deadlifts that I'm going to be taking, like I'm taking substantial jumps, like I'm taking 20 kilo jumps per week.
Mm-hmm.
But the first 3 weeks were all within realms of numbers that I've comfortably hit before. It's only going to be my 4th week where I'm going to be like, I'm going to be pushing this into an area that's unknown.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I'm
and
also,
they've looked comfortable every week as well, so it's not crazy jumps just for the sake of jumping.
but also like the conversation that we fucking had on Friday, maybe when I was squatting,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like,
Yep.
dude, like I'm fucking nervous. I'm a little bit scared because the feedback I'm getting through my body is exactly the same feedback I got when I hurt my hip, my back deadlifting.
Yep.
I don't know what to do here. And you're like, dude, just like get some quality reps in. Doesn't matter
Yep.
what the weight is, and then go and thrash your accessories hard.
Push something else.
I fucking
It,
thrashed my accessories really hard and was able to salvage the session.
yeah.
Looking back, and I'm like, yeah, like I would have loved to have gotten my squat stuff in, but it's like it's neither here nor there. Like,
In the moment though, it's so hard because I knew I could tell from the messages that you wanted to just keep going. Like I was like, "What's the point of going?" And you were like, "Not be a bitch." I was like, "Oh, that's such a Nick thing to say."
yeah,
I was like, "Oh, what is this role reversal day or something?
yeah.
Opposites
Like,
day."
you gotta taste your own medicine, motherfucker. But like that was the thing. I was like, I go sitting there and I'm like, fuck, like I'm like I don't want to be sitting there going, oh well, my squat session was only 120 kilos today because like that hurt my ego.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm stronger than this. I know I'm stronger than this.
Yeah,
But I just sit there and I go, well, you've had this issue for X amount of time, and it's still a fucking issue. Like maybe that's going to mean a different approach for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And like
a smart approach.
like I sit there and I go, look, my deadlifts, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on what I need in a good prep for a big deadlift. And like, obviously like I finished my rehab stuff for my back with like a really heavy set of good mornings, which felt fucking sick.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming back into my deadlifts, I was like, I feel my hamstrings significantly more than I ever have. And like I was training today and I took a photo of my hamstrings because I'm like, they're just fucking big juicy boys sitting off my legs. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen my hamstrings look that big.
Yeah, I know. I was surprised.
Yeah, but I'm like, I do my deadlifts now and it's like, I get the amount of hamstring feedback that I get is insane.
You haven't had that much before?
Never.
Nice. That's good.
But that's where I sit there and I go, like I'm due to pull like 210 for 8 reps this week.
Mm-hmm.
Like I also don't want to go in there like going like a blase and be like, oh well, it's just 210 for 8. Like it's still a lot of volume in one set. But like then the following week of like wanting to go like 227 for a nice round 500 pounds for 8 reps when the best I've ever done for 8 is 220. Like cool, like that's building some good baseline work.
Yeah, it is.
And then it's like cool. I'll run like sets of 5 after that. I'm like, I would really like to be able to finish on 260 for 5.
Yep.
Which I'm pretty confident I can do.
Hell yeah.
Like I pulled 260 for a triple off a deficit, no belt. Like
yeah, I saw that set. That was a good set.
Like I pulled 270 for 5 for 3 with no belt. I'm like, I feel like I'll be able to do 260 for 5. I've got a really good feeling that if I can finish this block strongly, that I'll be in a really good position to then go, all right, let's load this up and give it a bit of a yeet.
Yeah, 260 for 5 puts you in a really nice position to pull 300 this year too.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's obviously, like, the end goal for me is, like, to pull 300, but I even reckon if I pull 260 for 5, I'll probably have a block where I back off a fair bit and kind of, like, reinforce where things were starting to go a little bit, like, iffy. But cool, I'm now going to almost have, like, a block or two as, like, back off blocks to kind of, like, fill in those gaps and then have another really good run at 300.
Yeah, that's a smart way to do it, man.
But, like, I think for me, like, after I do nail 300, there is going to be, like, just a disgusting focus on getting my squat back up to something respectable.
Yeah.
Because I miss, like I remember, like, I look back at, like, some of my squat videos from when I was, like, yeah, like, I was strong, I was moving well, and I'm like, I was a really good squatter.
Yeah, you've got a beautiful squat, dude.
But
I've told you that a few times.
Now, and I'm like, that looks like trash. And it looks like trash.
It looks good. It doesn't look as good as what it did before.
Yeah, but that's where I'm like, I want to be able to get it to a point where people go, fuck, that's a good looking squat.
I think the only reason it doesn't look as good as before, though, is it shows that you're tentative in your movement.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, like, if I think back to, like, say, 2018, 2019, when, like, all my comps I was sort of squatting around, like, 270, 280, somewhere around there, like, there wasn't hesitation. But the other big thing is as well, and this comes back to your point from earlier, it's like I had a training crew. I had training partners. I had people that were like, oh, well, I can come in and rap you for your squats. And they knew how to rap really well. And I was like, cool. Like, I had a team around me that made it a lot easier for me to go, you know what? I don't have to worry about, like, wrapping my knees. I don't have to worry about, oh, fuck, like, I'm going heavy and I don't have spotters. Like, as much as I know I've got the slings of the mono, like, I don't really want to have to dump it. Like, all of those points of concern were taken away. Like, I remember there were nights when we would have a crew that would, say, be prepping for Pro Raw. And we'd have, like, 8 of us in the gym on a Friday night, all doing our wrap squats. And it was just the best fucking time. Like, you would sit there and, like, we would have, like, everyone on rotation. So it's like, if you were the next person to be up squatting, like, you would sit down, you wouldn't do anything. We'd have people spotting at the back, like, on the sides. We'd have someone running the gate, someone at the back spot. And then everyone just knew that they was like, cool, all right, well, you're up next, so you're going to sit down and do fuck all, and everyone just rotates a position. And everyone just finds their spot. Everyone helps each other out. No one's having to load their own bars. Like, we're all helping each other. It's like, I do a set. And they're like, oh, yeah, we've all done 230. Like, who wants what next? Oh, you want 245. You want 250. All right, well, you went first and you're going heavier, so you're going to just wait a little bit longer. You're going to be up. And, like, we would have our sequencing fucking nailed. And I think that's also probably a big factor as to why I'm a little bit hesitant on my squats, because I'm like, I don't feel as confident.
Yeah, you don't have that around you.
You put me in a front squat where, like, it's like, oh, well, literally the worst thing that happens is I dump it out the front.
Yep.
I can do that.
Sweet. Yeah, I like that. So I was just thinking while you were saying that, super ADHD, but I was just thinking back to the bench press elbow depth rule. How is that fair? So say if you were competing and you were your exact height now, your exact shape that you are, but you weighed 125 kilos,
Mm-hmm.
and you competed in the 125s, and most of that weight was in your torso. You would sink the bar, and your elbows still wouldn't be at depth.
So and this is sort of like a point that I made is like there are going to be some rules that just force people to up feds.
Yeah, and a lot of good benches are built like that.
Yeah, but I would also say that like a lot of those really good lifters are going to find a way to make it work. That it's probably going to mean like they have to change their bench technique. They've got to change their grip. They've got to change all of these factors to be like, I just need to fit within the rules now. And it's probably going to take kilos away from their lift.
Yeah, it would for sure. Like even if you think of like the big fella, I reckon he'd probably have a hard time because he's pretty thick.
I will be very interested to see, like, because obviously he'll squat something ridiculous
and deadlift something ridiculous if he goes all out.
Which, with it being Sheffield, I feel like he will. I feel
he still had kilos in the tank last year though on his deadlift. I know he broke records, but I look at that third deadlift and I was like, dude, there's still kilos there.
It may look like there is, but he may also just have been like, that was a fucking perfect. Like, I know that there have been days when like I've squatted something and I'm like, if you'd put a kilo more on that bar, I would have been fucking flattened.
Yeah.
And then there are days when it's like, it might look like a 10 and you go like, oh, well, I reckon I probably had another like 10, 15 kilos in that lift. And people are like...
like every single one of my lifts ever.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I don't know, like I'm looking forward to building my squat back up to something where they're like, all right, well, Ben's back to his lifting, like, let's go.
I'm looking forward to that too.
Like,
do that this year.
On the flip side of that, I'm also like, bench was my lift for so many years. It was always just like a real hindrance for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I just feel like my bench has now finally come to the party. It's like, if I can get my squat back into a really nice groove, keep my bench kind of on the same trajectory that it's on, and keep my deadlift where it's at, I'm like, I don't see why like a 750 gym total shouldn't be possible.
That's sexy.
Like if I can do a 750 gym total, again, like gym totals don't count fuck all, but it's like if I can be around sort of a 750 mark.
Well, they count if you don't compete.
Yeah, but I'm like, then it doesn't fucking matter what a gym total is because it doesn't matter.
Well, it does if you don't. If you're not competing, then it does matter. That's a measure of how strong you are. If you're a competitor, training totals are a fucking waste of time and they piss me off.
Yeah,
because it doesn't matter. But if you're not competing and you've said multiple times you're probably not going to compete or it'll take something special for you to compete, in that case, a gym total does matter because it's the only measure of strength that you have.
Yeah, I just don't like referring to it as a gym total because I think it's a really wanky concept.
It is, but like I said, you're not a competitor, so you're not going to get it.
Like, oh well, I squatted 290 or I squatted whatever. I benched 170 and I just pulled 300. Like again, I don't need to do that in a day. I don't need to do that in a week. I can just be like, oh cool, well,
those are my numbers.
My best lifts are X for a squat, X for a bench, and X for a deadlift, and they're my best numbers. And if people are like, well, what are your best lifts in comp? I'll be like, well, now that you've said it, I might have to go back on the platform and just make you shut the fuck up.
And just do it. And I think you should.
Again, it would take something special for me to go, yeah, let's do it. Like, and again, I am not a special powerlifter by any stretch of the imagination, but I honestly think the only reason I would do it if someone's like, I'll pay you to do it.
Oh, what about when I move to Melbourne and we could do it together?
I still wouldn't do a comp though. I would train with you, but I would be like, I don't want to go on a platform.
What are you scared of?
It's not even scared. It's just like, for me, it's like the effort doesn't equal a just outcome.
I'm trying to goat you into it.
I know you are, you motherfucker.
Do you want to talk about external rotation?
Are you trying to get me pissed off?
Yes, I am.
So external rotation is when you do this.
So your bench
Yep.
was a shit lift for a long time.
Yep.
It's been really good lately.
It's been better.
Yeah, well, it's actually been pretty darn good, and it's looking really nice. What do you put that down to?
So again, one of the benefits of lockdowns here in Victoria and me having a delicious home gym was that I could go and do a lot of the stuff that I've been putting off for years because I was very much in the frame of I'm a powerlifter. I don't have time to do these because I'm prepping for a comp.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I might be 6 months out from a comp, I think it was just like being immature and honestly probably just my ego getting the better of me.
Yeah.
But all like, running blocks where I was like, cool, I'm going to train heavy dumbbells and I'm going to train output.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to get myself comfortable with actually pressing weight. I'm going to do heavy dips where it's like there's a lot of pressure through my hand and there's pressure through my torso. And I need to learn how to control that. I need to teach myself to move better.
Mm-hmm.
I think the big thing that kind of really changed the tone for me was one, reducing my volume significantly
Mm-hmm.
and like just going, all right, cool. Like we have one really big fucking top set today.
Yeah.
Like I'm the kind of person that I respond really well to low volume, but really high intensity. I think the other big thing was like I did a lot of block work, which specifically for me just like works for my bench really, really nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think as well, like training my accessories really hard, so like things like dips and a lot more overhead work that I hadn't been doing in ages, to actually teach myself what scapular stability feels like,
Mm-hmm.
and not just trying to jam myself into positions that I couldn't control and just overusing the fuck out of the cue of, scaps back and down. Because frankly, I don't think most people actually understand what the fuck they're trying to achieve when someone's yelling at them, scaps back and down. And again, guilty of fucking using those cues to the fucking cows come home.
Mm-hmm.
Was also someone who was given those cues and didn't really understand what the fuck to do. But I think having a bit of time to kind of like step away from having to do a heavy bench press and being like, oh, well, I can do a barbell Z press. And when I press up here, it's like, holy shit, like all the muscles in the middle of my scapula are on fire and I've never felt them work that way. Like, I mean, fuck, like I sent you the video, I sent the photo of when I did like the standing vacuum when I dieted down, like you could see like all my ribs and shit. Like I was very skinny.
Super.
But like, I'll send you some pictures as well of me when I was training at home during lockdowns, when I was like, this is while I was dieting and like while I was like, hey, I'm doing heaps of rep work. And like I was fucking jacked.
Send it to me. Oh, not right now.
Oh no, I'm going to send it to you right now.
I just had to message Em and say, can I please get the aircon in here? Because I legit feel like I'm going to die.
Oh, dude, I'm shitting.
Oh my God. I feel so shit right now.
Yeah, me too.
I can't breathe.
But yeah, I think the big thing for me was just kind of giving myself a bit of time to like do the shit that I needed to do without having to go, oh, but I'm prepping, and I've sent you those pictures as well. So like, have a gaze.
Did you send them on IG?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, okay. Yeah, dude, what the heck?
Yeah.
When was this?
In 2020.
That was in lockdown?
2020, yeah.
That back shot's intense.
Yeah, how good is it? How good was the lighting in my house?
Yeah.
But like, that there for me was kind of like a point where I was like, oh, look, I've actually put on some pretty good muscle. I'm moving pretty well, and I felt really fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming back into into the gyms when they reopened, it was like, cool, like I'm gonna, because like I'd only ever had access to like 50 kilo dumbbells. I'd never had access to anything heavier than that. So I was at a point where I'm like, yeah, I can do like 6 reps with the 50s. And I like at the time I was like, look at me, I'm hot shit. I can press the heaviest dumbbells on the rack.
Yeah.
And then started training at Pro Raw a bit more. And then they had, I think they've got up to like 70s there. The gym I'm at now, I think, has got up to 80s. Like,
nice.
Yeah. But it's like, I see guys that literally like you watch Faster do his dumbbell work and he grabs like the 80s. He's just like,
yeah, like they don't exist.
And I'm like, bro, like, fuck off. Like,
it's so strong.
Won't. Or like, fucking Alex Simon. There were times when he would be pressing like 100 kilo dumbbells, and they're like this fucking big, and he's just like, to get them down, he's here, and there's like 2 reps with the 100 kilo dumbbells, and you're like, bro, like, what the fuck are they feeding you in Sydney?
Yeah, didn't he do like seated shoulder presses with 60s or something ridiculous like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
For a set?
Yeah.
It wasn't just 1 or 2 reps, it was like 6 or 7 reps or something?
Yeah, it was something fucking stupid.
Oh man, that's so strong.
But that's also where like I found a lot of the strength of my bench really came from, was like actually putting myself in positions where it's like I can feel what it's like to actually press hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's putting myself in positions where it's like I can actually work with a bit of scapular rhythm rather than being like, if I lose a little bit of retraction or whatever it might be, it's like, oh no, I've lost position. I'm like, I'm fucked in this set. It's allowing myself to get comfortable with it. It's like, yeah, you can lose. You've got a bit of, variability that you can work with. Obviously, we don't want that variability to go too far out. But it's like, if you're in a pocket here and you're kind of like cruising somewhere in there, you've got enough control because you haven't cranked positions really hard, but you're in a nice active position where you've got, you can keep the upper back nice and tight and you can press.
Yeah. And obviously, like, we want that the scaps back and down cue is obviously like designed or centered around creating stability at the shoulder joint.
Yeah, and like this is where, like, just as a sort of like a caveat and like asterisk on that point, I'm not saying it's a stupid cue and that like you should allow the shoulders to protract and elevate and do like this when you're pressing. But it's like, if they are moving a little bit, you're probably not going to get shoulder cancer and die.
Yeah, right. So that's what I was getting at with that sentence is it's not the fact that you want your shoulder blades as back and down as possible just for the sake of it. The idea of that is to create the stability at the shoulder. So if you have that stability and can allow a little bit of movement, and that's a stronger position, and you're not losing stability, there's no downside.
So like I look at it kind of like I do with like grip width on a bar for a squat. And you get some people that just like really mobile, they'll bring their hands really close and they just kind of like cram themselves into this position. And they're like, oh, well, like I'm tired of my upper back. And you poke them and it's like, there's nothing going on here.
Yeah,
you
it just
like taking the structures and pushing them together and be like, oh, it's like me going, I have tension on my bicep by bringing my hand close to my shoulder. It's like, no, like I've just jammed my forearm close to my humerus and gone biceps.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like if I want tension on my biceps, like cool, I can do like this. Like cool, that there for me is like I've got a lot of tension there. Here I got fuck all. So it's like, and this was the thing for me is like when I was told like, oh well, scaps back and down as hard as you can. I was like, well, I'm trying to get here all the time, but I don't have any control here. And this is where like obviously we're talking about like active versus passive range of motion the other week. I was just trying to cram myself into what I thought was really active range, but I didn't have any control of it. Therefore, by nature, it has to be passive. Like I might have been able to get into a really good position, but I wasn't able to maintain that position under load, which makes it redundant.
Right. But here's the flip side of that. Some people can, and the people that can, that's probably a really, really good, strong position and stable position for them to press from. And this is literally exactly what we always say is everything's not the same for everyone.
But this is the thing is like what works for me, like you look at your squat stance and how wide you are.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
hips would explode if I tried to squat that wide.
Mm-hmm.
But and I think this is obviously like confirming the point that you're making. Like, we keep coming back to principles.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Exactly.
an active range for me is going to be different to an active range for you. An active range for you and I is going to be different to an active range for M.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, like, we're still working with the principles that go, this is what builds a nice, big, strong bench. This is what builds a nice, big, strong like squat. And this is what builds a nice, big, strong deadlift. How that applies to individuals, obviously, like, everyone's biomechanics are going to be different.
Yeah.
Therefore, how we apply those principles is going to be somewhat different to someone else. Perfect example is I had a consult, also not the weekend just gone, but the one prior to that, with a girl that I've known through powerlifting for years. And she messaged me and she's like, Ben, I need your help to build some big muscle mummy quads.
Nice.
Like, beautiful. And I would watch her lift.
I think I know who this is, by the way. Did they tag you on Instagram the other day?
No. But like, I would watch her lift, and I'm like, you just train like a powerlifter. Like, yes, you might be doing reps, but like, and like with her leverages as well, I'm like, it's not going to be well suited to you being able to like really load your quads. She's like, I feel my glutes and my hamstrings in like everything that I do. I'm like, cool. So I'm like, based on that, what do you think we're going to be doing? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, cool. I'm like, well, show me how you do, say, like a split squat, or like show me how you do a Bulgarian, for example. And she did it. I'm like, cool. We're going to pretty much just like allow the knee to go as far forward as we possibly can. And then you're going to hold there.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hold there for 5 seconds. And then you're going to finish your rep and come back up. Within like 8 days of our session, I get a message from her. She's like, holy shit, Ben, like the variations you gave me have made me feel my quads more than I have in years. Like, I'm really excited to see where I can take this over like the next like 4 to 6 weeks. Like, thank you so much.
Beautiful.
But for her was very specific executions that I wouldn't give to a normal person. Like, those cues wouldn't be what I would give me because my leverages are significantly different to hers.
Right.
Like, I can just squat and I can build big quads from that.
Yeah. This is why I hate the concept of we all have a hip, we all have a femur, we all have knees, so we all should do the exact same things and that's how you squat. Mm-hmm. I understand the concept and of that, but I just think it is so fucking flawed because we all have a hip, yes, but my hip and your hip are structurally probably extremely different. My femur and your femur are structurally very different. My knees and your knees are structurally very different. So therefore, how we move is extremely different in pretty much every way possible. So having principles is great because you can apply them to different individuals that look and move and are made up differently. Telling everyone to do the exact same thing is the most stupid fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. To put it nicely.
Yeah.
To put it nicely.
Of course, because we don't want to be rude on this podcast.
No. Positive PVO, positive vibes only.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I just think that's really fucking stupid, personally. But anyway.
Yeah. People suck though.
People do suck. That's a really good example of like constraint-based coaching.
You love that fucking term, don't you?
Fucking love it, man. Because I made it up.
Yeah, I know. So... I'll fucking give credit. Like, that's a fucking sick name. You should fucking like trademark that.
I'm gonna put it on a shirt.
Do it.
No, I might. I don't know. Let's
go through some of the questions.
Yeah, let's go through some of the questions. I think we've actually let's so before we go into the questions, let's go through some of the common issues that we might see with the bench press.
So
I think that would be a good one.
do you want to start that off, or do you want me to?
Oh, I can start it off. So I think some of the common issues that I'll see in a bench press, or one of the big common issues is shoulders coming up.
Yep.
That's a big one. I've been guilty of that in the past a lot. I think you used to fucking get stuck into me about that all the time, but I couldn't stop it until recently. They've been really good recently.
Good.
But it's taken a lot of work. So that's probably one of the biggest ones that I see. Another big one that I see is getting set up really nice and tight under the bar, getting like really nice, like tight shoulders, stable, nice, tight, like thoracic, everything's really good. And then unrack the weight and it just like, you just flatten out and just lose position straight away before you even start the first rep. That's a pretty big one.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got?
I would probably say either excessive tucking or flaring.
Yep.
And then the other one that I will bring people up on a lot is over exaggerating the press to the point where they like protract and lose scapular positioning. Like when you're like pressing off the chest, like it should just be the elbow extending, not the whole shoulder losing position.
Yeah, and when you do that, the set's over pretty much.
Yeah.
Or very close to it.
But yeah, they're probably the main ones. Like again, like the unrack is one that I see time and time again is people do all this great work building such a really nice position, and in the moment, like then they like press the bar out, and then they're trying to like
it's gone.
They're trying to get back, and it's like you may as well re-rack it, do it again, and actually learn how to use your lats to bring the bar out, so that you can still be in the position that you've worked so hard to get into, so that when you come down to your chest, you're actually tight and have a nice strong press off.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. I like to. This is why I think videoing your sets is really important, because I always like to, if I'm with a client and I see that, I literally will just go over to the video, grab it, and I'll say, let's watch this. See this position that you're in here. Watch as soon as you unrack it. Look how much it changes. Everything just flattens out. Now you're in a terrible position. Your shoulders are rounded forward. Everything's gone to shit, literally instantly.
Yeah.
Now, look at how shit that set was. Remember how shit it felt. Let's not do that this time, and then we'll compare at the end of this set. And then they're like, oh, man, that was like, I didn't even feel the weight on that bar. That was amazing. I'm like, yeah, it makes a big difference, huh?
I think the first question we should start with is probably the most important question.
What one's that?
What's your best bench press?
Ooh. Okay. What's yours?
165. That's why I wanted to start with this question, you motherfucker.
Oh, was that in competition?
No.
So I won. What's your best comp bench?
160.
Was that the arse lift one?
160.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
My best comp one is 160 as well, but it was a novice comp, so I'll count your 160 arse lift for my 160 novice comp, and we'll call it even.
Well, my 165 was like legit. It was paused, bum was on the bench, self-unracked, like...
was that the fat pad one, though?
No.
Okay, all right. I'll give it to you.
It was on an Eleiko bench.
Okay.
Don't bring me back to that fucking fat pad. I was that close to locking out 170.
Do you think if you had worked a little bit more on external rotation, you would have got 170? Do you reckon?
Night, guys. It's been great.
I think you might have.
I think you need to shut your whore mouth.
No. My best comp bench was the 160 at the Breakthrough Novice comp.
Yep.
And then I did 155 and 155 again in the 2 comps since then. But I think I think my bench is going to be really good the next time I compete. Really good for me. I think I'm going to go above 160.
I think you will as well.
My bench is feeling a lot nicer than it ever has. I feel like I can get in a much better position. I'm able to use my leg drive a lot more and actually feel my leg drive a lot more. So because I'm so tall, it's obviously not the easiest thing for me to do to get into a position.
Can't say I have
But-
that same trouble.
No, your legs are like you're on your tippy toes trying to reach the ground.
That's why I get a booster seat.
Is that why you wear squat shoes? So you can touch the ground?
I've actually never benched with short shoes on before.
You never have? I've never have either. But so since I've been doing a lot of work on my hips,
Mhm.
I'm able to get into a lot better position with my hip extension, and I'm actually able to control that position a lot more instead of just like jamming into the position and just being there but not actually having any control over it. I'm finding that I have a lot more pressure through my feet. I'm driving my hips up and back at the same time a lot better. And because of that, I can get a lot better position through my thoracic, and then that's actually helping my shoulder stability as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've been doing a lot of work on the shoulder stability also, but I think all of it coming together is just everything's feeling so nice at the moment.
Good.
So yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what that's like when I start eating again, and
Nice.
I'm not diet boy. But I think it will be. I think I'm going to bench something a little bit better at the end of the year.
Sure.
Yeah, the hips are a big one, huh?
Oh, no shit. Like, it's such an underrated aspect of bench press that I feel like people just, like, neglect. Because they're like, oh, I'm benching, I'm just going to be doing upper body. And they're like, well, fuck, my legs are just kind of, like, flagging around like one of those, like, wacky inflatable and crazy moves.
Yeah. And you can even see it when people, like, they'll get in position or they get into the position that they think they should be in. Their feet are under their hips, and like it looks like this is where I should be, but
Yeah.
they're not actually doing anything in that position. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like I'm wearing my hat backwards, but I'm not actually doing the thing that it was designed for.
Don't know why you're not doing that.
Because I'm
Backwards man, I go as fast as you can.
I'm not going to say it. Where should the bar touch on your chest to optimize strength?
Depends on your leverages and depends on your grip width. There are so many variable factors that will contribute to it.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, you're going to want a fairly high touch point. Like, you don't want to be touching here and having trouble further. Like, you're probably going to find, like, somewhere around, like, in line with your nipples.
Yeah, somewhere around that, like, somewhere around the nipple. Like, I would even go as far as to say, like, from anywhere from about, like, an inch above the nipple.
Yep.
To, like, that xiphoid process.
Yep.
Somewhere within that range, I think, is pretty universal.
Yeah, and that's obviously then where, like, specifics are going to come down to the individual and what feels most comfortable. But yeah, like,
and for everyone listening, that xiphoid process is like if you like stick your finger into your chest and you keep walking them down the chest until you feel that bone separate, where your ribs separate, that little like gap there, that's the xiphoid process. So like somewhere between like there and about an inch above your nipple, I think is probably fairly universal.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would just say, like, if you're unsure, to just play around with it until you find something that feels really comfortable, and that's probably a good spot for you.
Yeah.
Good old trial and error method is always a good one. Here's a good question from Instagram from Miles Champion. I competed with Miles at GPC Nationals last year.
Mm-hmm.
From Mackay. He trains at Zero Mackay. That is a really nice gym, man.
I would like to go and check out some of the Zero gyms at some point.
The Zero Mackay one in particular looks very, very nice, and all of their equipment is that like NZ teal color.
Because that's the one that Wes owns, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, because I've competed with Wes a couple of times. Like Wes and Brooke, they're lovely human beings.
Yeah, that's a really cool gym. So the question is, I can still see you. It's so good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just can't see you, and it makes me feel like I'm talking to myself like an idiot.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Well, yeah, it would be the first time.
Question is, I'm considering elbow sleeves. Would you say they're worth it?
Do you want me to answer first, or do you want to answer first?
No, I've got how I feel about it, but you go first.
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Well, I'll rephrase. I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
But I would probably just say that if you're doing them to reduce the pain that you get in your elbows after, like when you're benching, I'd probably say there's more work that needs to be done that doesn't require a Band-Aid fix like an elbow sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing them purely for the sake of being like, oh, I want a bit of a boost to my bench press, I'd probably just say do a block press or a Slimshot instead.
Yeah. I would agree. But I also think that if you want to use them, go for it.
Yeah, hence the I don't care, but like
yeah. So I have a athlete who asked if he could use them.
Yep.
Just because he liked the idea of it, and he said, "I just think it might just, make my elbows feel nice when I press."
Yep.
The same way knee sleeves make my knees feel nice when I squat. And my answer was to him, I don't care if you do it. Just keep in mind that you wear your knee sleeves when you compete. You won't be able to wear your elbow sleeves when you compete. So my compromise to you is, yes, you can buy them, and yes, you can use them. I don't want you using them on any of your warm-up sets, and I don't want you using them on your top sets. You can use them on your back down sets, and you can use them on your dumbbell pressing. Go for your life. Warm-ups, top sets, no sleeves. Back downs, dumbbell pressing, go for your life.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be like one of my caveats as well. If I've got a competitor, I would just go blank and say no. It's like when I get people that are like, oh, well, I squat in sleeves. Is it worth me doing working reps? It's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no point. If you're competing in a federation that like you have to bare knee squat, there's no point doing anything with anything on your knees because you don't get to do that on comp day. So you may as well.
You don't get to do it. Yep. So it's up to you. Do whatever you like.
Yeah. Again, I don't really care, but I would probably lean more towards like it not being necessary.
Yeah, and I think it also comes down to why, right? Like you said, if it's because your elbows are hurting, they're most likely not hurting because of bench. You're most likely just feeling it on bench. They're most likely hurting because of something else that you're doing.
Yeah.
Being low bar squatting.
Oh, don't get me started.
So I would suggest doing a whole bunch of
external rotations.
But don't do them on the cable. Do them standing up in the mirror and hold the dumbbells at 90 degrees and just go outwards like that.
Yeah, you'll get really big shoulders doing them that way.
Don't do that. Anyone listening, don't do that. Do not ever do that.
You will be banned from this podcast.
you'll be banned from my life. What's the most optimal hand position when benching?
So again, I think this is pretty individualized. For me, again, like talking about like one of the general approaches I have for most of my clients, whether they're Gen Pop, whether they're athletes, is at least starting in a position that when you're in the bottom of a bench, your wrist and elbow are stacked while the bar's on your chest. Just so that we can maximize structural stability as much as we can. Obviously, like there are going to be some people that just like have weird leverages where like, you know, their forearm might be a substantial amount longer than what their humerus is. So when they get into that position there, like there's some real funky shit going on so that they can actually hit that position. Again, I'm pretty lucky. Like my leverages are pretty good for bench. Like I've got short arms, or relatively short arms. So for me to go to like a stacked position there, like one, you can see where the bar sits in my hand there. It's pretty easy for me to get into a nice strong position with a pretty stacked grip.
Yeah.
I like that as a very generalized, broad approach for most people. In terms, like, I very rarely these days get anyone benching out like super, super wide. Like, I'm absolutely more inclined to be like, let's go. Like, so for example, like the heaviest bench I've ever done was with my ring finger on the ring. And the only reason why I changed, so I was pinky finger on the ring like I am now. And then when I ruptured the tendons in my finger, which is why then my pinky's a bit bent.
Bit droopy.
I couldn't go ring finger on the ring anymore. And that was throwing off myself because I'm like, I don't know where I am if I can't have that feel and that sensation. So I was like, problem solved. I'll just go one finger wider. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I think I may have something here. Which again kind of brings me back to the whole point of going, do a lot of general work with general principles, and that will make you stronger in more optimized positions.
Yep. I when I do my pointer finger on the ring, I'm pretty much stacked in the bottom position because of how long my arms are.
Yeah, it's because you're a human albatross.
So that's what, you know, just really highlighting again that everyone's built so different. So there's really no one size fits all. Like you have to hold the bar here or you have to do this when you bench because, you know, everyone's built so different. So it's going to look different on everyone.
Yeah.
But if anyone's curious as to what either Ben or I think is most optimal for them, feel free to DM us. And I know I'm super open to conversations in the DMs, and I'm pretty sure Ben is as well.
Absolutely. I love a good old DM chat.
Especially about training. So we talked a little bit about leg drive in my bench and how I'm using that a lot more now. So one of the questions that we got was, how does leg drive affect your bench? So did you want to explain the general concept of leg drive in a bench press? Because you think bench press, you think upper body movement, right? Like I'm using my pecs and my triceps here.
Yeah. So
why legs?
I think I look at leg drive a little bit different to how a lot of coaches do. So the way that I will generally look at leg drive is I'm like, the legs are positioned in a way that we can kind of create, like from the feet through to the shoulders, like a solid structure with support coming from the ground. Whereas, and again, like coming from a GPC background where some of the rules and some of the like standards may have been a little bit more lax compared to others, there were times when you see people and they would like sink the bar into the chest and then they would like push really hard through their feet and that would give like a spring effect that would then transfer into being able to press a heavy weight off the chest. The only reason why I don't personally like that is I'm like, you're going from tight to loose to trying to go tight again.
Yeah.
The way I like to look at it is if you're able to get yourself in a position where in your setup you can drive through the feet and you're like, yep, like I've got a nice strong position on my upper back and my shoulders. my bum's in contact with the bench, like I'm good here. So when you come out and you're still able to press through, like, so you're pressing down to the ground, but also if you imagine your feet are on the ground, sort of like such, you're kind of like pushing like forward and slightly out. So you're creating tension at the hips as well by the direction that you're pushing with the feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would be like, try and keep that active the entire time. So that
Yep.
you're here, you come down, you hit your chest, and then as you go to press, there's still enough support through the legs, driving into the hips, driving into the thoracic, which allows the upper body to be nice and stable on the bench, so that as you go to press, it's just a off the chest.
Yeah, that's exactly how I think about leg press as well, and how I teach leg press. how I think about leg drive and how I teach leg drive in the bench press for the majority of people.
Yeah,
is you're not like driving your legs to transfer power into the bar. You're driving your feet into the ground to create a solid, stable overall system, which will allow you to press more weight.
Yeah.
So it's not like tight, loose, tight. And I think, and this is not a knock on tight, loose, tight, or sinking the bar and then like hoisting it up. That's a skill that a lot of people don't have. And to go from tight to loose to tight again, a lot of people don't have that skill. And I think if they learn the stay tight the whole time, soft touch, and create leg drive to create a stable overall system, they can go to the tight, loose, tight dump later down the track when they have a solid understanding of how everything works.
I still don't think that the tight, loose, tight approach is a good thing to teach or do, period. Just because I'm like, for comp standards, I feel like it just allows way too much room for error, because like if you come down to the chest and you sink it and you're holding there waiting, like there's very few people that I've seen who've been able to do it well. And I reckon I could probably count them on one fucking hand. But like the amount of people that sit there and then they get the press call and then they try and dip to press and try and use a bit of momentum and they get called for bar dip.
Yep.
And it's like,
Yep.
Cool. Like you've mistimed it, you fucked it up, like, but also I think as well, like if you get a strict judge and they see you come out for your open and they see you like really sink it, as you get closer to your third, they're just going to get more and more relentless with being like, I'm going to hold you there.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to wait until I see everything's at a dead fucking stop. And if you're fast and you're sinking, it's really hard to try and like decelerate that load, hold it, transfer the load to be able to then press it back off. It's like when you see, like the example I will kind of look at is like, obviously squat and a bench are similar in the sense that you have the eccentric then the concentric.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, how many of the best squatters in the world do you see like dive bomb into a squat?
Yeah, no, I have this conversation all the time. None.
You don't.
Almost none.
You
No.
look at like the best squatters in the world and they're fucking controlled in there. They hit their positions and then they fucking pump it out of the hole.
Yep.
You look at the best benches in the world as well, and they're all
Agreed.
like, don't get me wrong, there are some very good bench pressers that I know personally who heave quite heavily and they're fucking strong. Like Deeks is one.
Yeah, Deeks is one.
And he's one of the very few people that I know can time the fuck out of a heave and use it to his advantage. But he's an excellent bench presser.
Yeah, he's technically very good.
But I still think he has potential to be better if he got, like, did a lot more work in his off seasons and his non-comp specific work of a really tight, strong, stable position, so that when he then went back to a bit more of a heave, there's a stronger base for him to work off. Like, again, we look at Joe.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yep. Yeah, Joe's got a really good bench too.
Beautiful bench. And he benches, what, fucking 270?
Yeah, I know. Oh, dude, that guy, he takes time off and then he comes back and he's like, oh, yeah, first day benching after a little bit of a break.
You're going to bench
Just
220 for a double?
Yeah.
It's like, fuck off,
yes.
man.
I'll just quit right now. How about that?
Yeah, he's like, oh, first squat session in a while. I guess I'll go 350 for 5.
Yeah, just take a 70 kilo jump, no
My
worries.
warm up was 280, but whatever, YOLO.
Just like, oh man, some people are just different.
Yeah, he's a fucking animal though. But yeah, I think like in terms of leg drive, my thing is I like it as more of an active supportive system rather than a tight, loose, tight kind of approach.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I think has really helped my bench
Yeah.
over the last couple of months is being able to get into that active range and then holding tension and actually holding tension through the whole system
Yeah.
has helped dramatically for the entire set.
Yeah.
How do you properly spot a bench press?
So I know we've got two parts to this question. Obviously, we've got how to spot like a fail lift and like how to spot for a handout. So I'll kind of cover both.
Yep.
For me, if someone asks me for a handout on a bench and I'm like, what sort of handout do you like? If they're like heavy, I'll be like, no, sorry. As far as I'm concerned, an unrack on a bench should be, I'm going to make sure you clear the hooks easily enough. And then I'm going to guide you into your position. I'm going to take like a tiny little bit of that weight, but I'm sure as shit not taking the majority of that bar.
No.
So my thing is like, obviously, like someone gets into their position. Obviously, for most people, you're going to have to pretty much stand over their face. Bars should be in the fingertips. Guide them out. Take a step back.
Yep.
Then they come down, they do their rep. If in the event, so obviously, one, even if you have a spotter, I still highly recommend using face savers. Because I think that, like, what's the fucking point in having them there if you're not going to use them? But obviously, if you unwrap for someone, you pop them out into the spot, take your step back, and they come down, they're coming up and they're pressing. Do not touch the bar until it starts coming back down. In which case, you step back in, you grab the bar, and you pretty much stand up. And as you're standing up, that person's pressing as well. Bar's back in the rack.
Yep.
Whether it's squatting, whether it's benching, like if you're doing a lift, if you fail and someone is helping you to get it back up,
don't stop.
You go with them. Like especially on like a squat, there's nothing more I hate than when people get stuck at the bottom of the squat and the spotters take it and then they just like walk away. It's like, what are you fucking doing?
Well, they just go limp, and you're like, dude, I'm not trying to fucking Zercher squat 280 here.
Yeah, and
give me something.
Back to bench as well, like depending on how heavy, like there's been times when I've been at the gym and there'll be someone that's like, oh, like I'm going for a PB bench that's at 210. That's usually where we will go, hey, look, we're going to get someone to help with the unrack and we're going to have side spotters as well. We're going to be sensible about this.
Yep.
But if let's say I'm benching 140 for reps, like I did today, for example, like if I ask someone to spot me, most of the time it's like, I just want someone there for moral support.
Yeah, just in case something goes wrong.
Face. But I feel like I'm in a really good spot with my bench press where it's like, you know what? Like I actually don't need a spot. I know if I've got the rep or not. Like the last time when I kind of like peaked my bench and I benched 160 like pretty comfortably, I got someone in the gym to spot me purely because the face savers couldn't actually fix into the bench. And I'm like, if for whatever reason I miss and that has to come back on the face savers, I'm like, I don't want them to then fall and for me to get pinned under a bar.
Yep. The caveat that I would say here is the one thing that I think is a non-negotiable in spotting is if you're spotting someone, just fucking pay attention. Like if you're spotting someone, pay attention until that set is done. I actually tore my pec benching because the spotter started texting someone mid-set. And I was halfway up, struggling, needed help, and as I was like halfway up, it was stuck there for like 3 seconds. Pec literally started tearing so drastically that the bar was bouncing. It was like tear, 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 tear. It was horrible, dude.
Gross.
And literally, like, had that guy have not been texting, he's in jail now. Had that guy have not been
Makes
texting,
sense.
yeah, I would have jailed him for that, to be honest.
Fucking dog cunt.
It's a jailable offense. Pay attention when you're spotting anything. If you're spotting someone, don't be 10 miles away. Like, be close enough that you can actually help if you need to.
Yeah. So I had a client. She sent me her check-in videos on Sunday. And I was having a look at it, and this guy's like helping her on her dumbbell press. Like, she's getting to a point where she like just kind of needs to help to get the dumbbells up. And he like, she like kicks him up. She's here, and he helps her get up to this spot here. And she does one rep, and then he just walks off.
Just see you later. Like he just got bored. He's like, I'm out of here.
He's like, oh yeah, like you're up, you're going, you're good to go. And then just like walked off. I was like,
that's so
what
loose.
is this guy doing?
That's next level. That's like, I'm out of here.
I had a really good laugh at that, but I'm also like, as long as that doesn't happen on like your comp bench, I'm like, you're fine.
Yeah, at least with dumbbells you can just bail.
Yeah.
Unless they come forward. I've had that happen a few times where they fail in and you have to throw them to the side.
Takes
That's
a
pretty
special
scary.
kind of person to fail inwards on a dumbbell press.
It's happened
Oh, I know,
multiple times.
But
It's happened
a
multiple
special kind of
times.
person.
That's literally as a coach or as a PT in that situation where I'm like actively spotting the person and they start to fail inwards. I literally just put my hands and just throw the dumbbells sideways.
And then they tear a peg off the bone.
Well, it's better than smashing their face
Yeah.
into oblivion. We covered the pec tear one. How do you avoid a pec tear? I think just like shoulder stability comes into play there a fair bit.
Again, like, what's the recipe for injury?
Being shit.
It's like when load exceeds tissue tolerance.
Sorry, say that again.
It's like if load exceeds tissue tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, like, if we can make sure that the shoulder is stable, then it's literally just a matter of like, be smart with load selection.
Yeah.
Most of the time when people are doing shit they shouldn't be doing, they end up doing shit they shouldn't be doing, and that's when things tend to go wrong. Like, but again, like, don't get me wrong. There are times when it's just like, you did everything right and shit happened. You tore a pec. Welcome to powerlifting. Like,
Yeah.
touch wood, I haven't torn anything doing powerlifting. Hurt my back a couple of times, but like, haven't torn anything off the bone. Like, I've been very fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the kind of thing where, when you are trying to push numbers, there is an unfortunate reality where sometimes shit just goes bang.
Yeah. Yeah, so just making sure you're in a good position.
Yeah.
And you don't do dumb shit as much as possible. How does a big back equal a big bench? That's a pretty well-known saying that goes around a fair bit. You want a bench big, got to have a big back. Why?
Why do you think?
I think there's a few reasons. I think there's a few reasons why it contributes. I don't think it's the only contributing factor. Like, if you've got a huge back, it doesn't necessarily mean you're automatically going to have a big bench. But I think it can add to the stability that you can create.
Mm-hmm.
It can give you a nice solid base to press from.
Yep.
Anything else?
I would just to sort of like build on some of those things that you said there. Like, obviously, what makes someone's back look big usually?
Big muscles.
Which ones in particular, though?
Well, it depends where you're looking. Like, I think a big back for me is like big lats.
Yeah, and what does the lat
Big
do to the
trap.
bench press?
Will help stabilize the shoulder joint, obviously.
Yeah. So obviously, if someone has, big lats, then theoretically they should have a easier time being able to stabilize their shoulders while they're benching. And as you said, like, the wider their back is, the more surface area they're going to have on that bench But I think this as well comes back to a really interesting point that like Marcos has mentioned a few times with like men's powerlifting is like in bringing in the fat pad for GPC. It's like, how often do you see pec tears occur in women's powerlifting?
Not much.
Don't think I've ever seen anyone like a female tear a pec. But
No.
when you look at like structure of a woman on a standard bench, it lines up pretty well. When you got guys that are fucking this wide trying to fit onto a bench this wide, it doesn't work too well.
Mm-mm.
And then all of a sudden, if they can't get their shoulders onto a bench, and they're kind of like, well, it's just sitting somewhere in the middle of my back, they've got no support there to sort of fix the scaps to. In
Mhm.
which case, they're kind of pressing on a fucking airbed.
Yeah, I would even go down the road of it could aid in bench pressing just from a structural integrity standpoint, where you know your posture's better, your overall strength is better because you have well developed back muscles to counteract all of the fucking pressing that you're doing.
Yeah, and obviously, like the more muscle someone has, the higher potential they have for strength and power. But my thing is also like if you obviously look at the pecs and the lats both being internal rotators of the shoulders, like if someone is like chronically stuck in this position here and they're trying to get into do a bench, but they can't actually get the position of their shoulder in a good spot, sometimes that extra muscle they're carrying can be a detriment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just I think that comes back to like structural integrity, right? Like
Yeah,
you can be well muscled and still move well and still have good posture.
yeah.
I think that's
As long
something
as they
that's
do
really
their external rotations.
yeah. It just comes back to that at the end of the day.
Literally, if you've got a shit bench, you just need more external rotations, nothing else.
To be honest with you, don't even do anything else. It's just a waste of time.
Yeah,
If
like,
your program has anything else in it other than external rotations, you're wasting your time.
if you're not doing GVT for shoulder external rotations, what even are you doing?
Literally wasting your time.
Pissing into the wind.
I think that's been a big reason that that my bench is feeling better as well, is just that my body is moving better.
Yeah.
So,
well, again, like you sent me a video the other week of like you actually being able to get your hand up like pretty close to this spot here.
Yeah.
Pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
I remember like when I was sitting up there, you're like, look, Ben, my arm's overhead.
You're like, look how far I could get my arm away from my side today.
It's like, I'm 3 inches away from my hip. I'm doing good.
This is big.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from that standpoint, I think having a big back or a strong back can really benefit as well.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good one. I actually really like this question. So, what are the life benefits of a bench press outside of strength sports?
If you like that one, you can answer, because my take on these questions are probably a little bit pessimistic.
Look, in all honesty, like probably zero. I mean, fuck. Like, I love lifting, but like life. I mean, the wording in that. It's funny because the guy that asked this question actually DM'd me and said, "I know Ben is big on wording, so I tried to word them all appropriately." So it's good that you're getting that reputation already. But
I like language, man.
yeah, so like if you read this question for what it says, the life benefits are probably close to zero. Like, I don't think that my life is going to be any better because I bench press than someone that never bench presses. I know what the question's supposed to say though, and it's in a training perspective. What are the benefits for a non-competitor that enjoys strength training doing bench press outside of a competitive setting? And if it's worded that way, I still think probably close to zero. But it's fun.
this is the thing that I keep coming back to. Like, when you're looking at like non-competition clients, most people will be like, yeah, like I want to be strong, but most people are also going to be like, I want muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Like they want improved body composition, they want to be strong. Is bench press the best exercise to build upper body size? Probably not.
From a hypertrophy standpoint, I would say absolutely not.
No, I would put it quite far down the list. But I mean, fuck it. Like for any guy, if you're like, oh yeah, like I go to the gym, there is a 90% chance that someone's gonna be like, so what do you bench?
Of course.
And if you're like, oh well, I don't bench, they're gonna be like, why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Again, like your dogs, nice. But like I think like obviously like we had this question when we did squats as well. Like, you know, what are some benefits of heavy squats outside of powerlifting? And it's like I don't think there are any. I think the mental thing of being able to like bring a heavy bar up over your face and go, I'm going to bring this down to my chest and press this motherfucker back up. I think there's, again, if we like zoom out a little bit and we're like, oh well, when your back's literally up against the wall, being able to press something away from you and like do something hard, like there's probably some benefit in that. But is there like actual life benefit from being able to do a heavy bench press? No, probably not. From a competition versus non-competition kind of perspective, is there benefit to being able to bench press? No, but it's probably pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And like you said, every guy that's ever gone to the gym wants a decent bench press.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, like I would put it in most programs for that reason, unless there's a specific reason not to.
Mm-hmm.
And also because pretty much everyone that I coach at this point is a competitive powerlifter.
Yep.
Although for the guys that I coach that are athletes, field athletes, I actually don't have them bench pressing.
Yep.
I just don't think that there's any need for them to do that. And that's kind of training energy that they could place elsewhere that would have way greater return on investment for them.
Yep.
So I just don't have them doing it. Actually, that's not true. Some of them I don't. Some of them I do because they specifically said improving my bench press is something that I want to get out of this, not just getting better at my sport.
So my question is, what sort of field athletes do you not program bench for?
So I train a couple of rugby league players.
Yep.
I don't have them bench pressing with a barbell unless they specifically ask for it.
Yep.
And I train 2 soccer guys. I don't have them bench pressing with a barbell unless they specifically ask for it. And I train 1 field hockey guy, and I don't have him bench pressing at all.
Like
they do pressing, but not with a barbell.
Yeah. So like obviously, like I mean, this isn't really like public knowledge yet, but you obviously know, like I've started working with like a big V basketball team now.
Mm-hmm.
Like those guys won't bench.
No, there's no need to.
Like especially for like a sport like basketball, like yeah, like they'll probably do some pressing, but it won't be like outrageously heavy. It's gonna be like, let's get them moving well and let's build some strength off that. But it'll all be like substantial rep work. Like they're gonna probably benefit a little bit more from some strength endurance work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think there are definitely some sports where, like, especially if the athlete's like, hey, like I really want to be able to get my bench press up as well. It's like, cool. There'll be some benefit being able to go, fuck it, let's yeet some bench for you.
Yeah, and that's my footy guys.
Yeah,
those guys bench more than any of my other athletes that aren't powerlifters, and I think that also comes back to the footy guy mentality too, though. Like they're the most bro athletes by far.
Yeah.
And so they just want a big bench. And the way I look at it is like, okay, this isn't actually going to harm your progress towards being a better athlete.
Yeah.
It might not be the exact thing that I would want to do, but if it gets buy-in from you and it's not taking away, then why the hell not?
Yeah.
So I'll cycle it in, and then we might do like a pre-season testing day where there's like some bench in there just to make them feel like, oh, let's like outbench the other guys, and then we'll move into something a little bit more appropriate moving closer to the season.
Yeah.
But the other guys don't do it at all.
Yeah.
And then some of my Gen Pop clients do bench.
Yep.
Because they like it and they're good at it and it works well for them. And some of them don't. And the people that don't have a worse life because they don't.
No. They're not losing sleep over the fact they're like, I can't bench press.
No, not at all. I mean, M doesn't bench at all. At all.
Yeah.
Zero pressing at all. She does overhead pressing, but zero like bench pressing, no dumbbell pressing, no dumbbell incline pressing at all until like 6 weeks out from comp.
Yeah.
And she just doesn't care. She's like, I don't want to do it. If you make me do it, I won't do it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to program it for you then if you're not going to do it. I'll just do something else that you will actually do.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's do one more.
Cool. I'm curious to see which one you're going to pick for the last one because I know which one I would pick.
You pick it then.
The benefits of incline/decline bench.
That's what I was going to pick.
Fucking, this is why we get along.
Yeah, well, I agree.
Do you want me to fill this one first, or?
Yeah, go for it.
So, I love incline. I love it, especially as like a dumbbell press, purely for, like, yes, the strength gains, but also hypertrophy and different angles of the pec.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we look at the nature of powerlifting, it's kind of decline-ish in nature.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm like, as far as like decline bench goes, I very rarely will program decline bench.
Same.
But I would be like, we're still going to get lower portions of the pec if we're doing things like dips.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, obviously to strengthen, like if we're say in a bench position here and we're getting a little bit more lower pec from a powerlifting-esque style setup, and then we're also doing heavy dips, it's like, cool, that then filters in. But that's where it's like, I think a lot of like dumbbell press and frankly like overhead press as well has real benefit for a lot of, especially powerlifters, but just strength athletes in general. Purely because, again, it's pressing in a different plane of motion that we don't generally get a lot of exposure to.
Yep. So just movement variability.
Yeah.
Big advocate. I'm exactly the same.
Cool.
I'll program dips a lot.
Same.
A lot. I'll program incline presses a lot at varying degrees of incline.
What's your favorite angle for incline pressing?
30.
Yeah, how fucking sick is a 30-degree incline press?
Yep, 30 would be my favorite, my personal favorite, and my favorite to program.
This makes my dick hard.
Yeah, it's the most optimal press angle by far.
Yeah.
For an incline.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll go lower though, and sometimes I'll go higher.
Yep.
Just for purely just for movement variability, and then different variations of overhead pressing as well. But I'll almost never program decline bench.
I don't think I've ever programmed decline bench.
I never have either, but I don't want to say never because there might be a situation where I would.
Well, that's where, like, I'm not going to say I would never do it. I'm just saying to this date, after 13 years of coaching, I've never programmed decline.
Neither have I. I've programmed decline pullovers, but never decline pressing.
But Nicholas, that is not a decline press.
No, it's not, but it is decline.
Tomatoes.
Although, actually, I've programmed decline, like a decline press machine for bodybuilding clients that don't do all of the other things that we were just talking about, like competition-style bench press and things like that.
Sounds like you need to kick them in the dick.
Yeah, but that was they're bodybuilders. They're a little bit different. They're not really athletes.
They're special snowflakes.
They are athletes. I'm just kidding.
Nick's like, no, don't worry, I'm not serious.
Don't cancel me.
The IFBB is going to be coming for you, Nick.
Hey, the IFBB.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all right. They can. They're definitely athletes. They're the best at not eating.
I would classify them more as artists.
Yeah, they're fantastic at not eating for long periods of time.
Yeah, I still think there's like a lot of like a degree of work ethic that any bodybuilder needs to be good.
Oh, for sure.
Again, like I look at like when you look at a powerlifter that's genuinely good and works hard, they're great. When you get, you know, your weekend warrior that's like, I'm gonna do a powerlifting competition and I'm gonna do this, and they become an instant expert overnight on, you know, the last 30 years of powerlifting. When you speak to like someone who genuinely loves bodybuilding, they're like, I'm gonna take like the next 2 years to set groundwork so that when I prep, I actually prep for something worthwhile, and they actually know to do like off seasons and prep properly and that sort of stuff. I'm like, yeah, cool. Like what they can do with their physiques is quite remarkable. I just could never fucking do it.
I couldn't either, but I think a lot of powerlifters could take a lot from that. I mean, I have a lifter at the moment. I have a couple of lifters at the moment that have this mentality, but one in particular who I've had this conversation with a number of times already this year, and it's only, you know, February almost, is that his goal, we have goals for this year.
Yep.
But our main goal that we're working towards is for 2025.
Yeah.
For the middle, it's going to be like in the middle of 2025. So mid-year 2025. So a year and a half from now.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been working towards that now for already 4 months. And I just think that's such a good long-term mindset to have where, yes, we'll set little goals along the way, and those are very important, but they're not to take away focus from the main goal, which is going to take 2 years to get to. Yeah. And that's the mindset that we're taking towards it.
It's like micro versus macro goals.
Mm-hmm. And I think if more people took that mindset of like looking forward, you would see a lot of progress.
I agree.
Do we want to leave it there?
Yeah, well, I mean, 2 hours and 47 minutes, I think it's probably a good point for us to wrap it up for tonight.
We'll cut it there. And then what we can do, obviously, we're going to roll through a few more weeks of just like general topics that we have. And then we'll come back and do deadlifts in a couple of weeks. And then what I actually want to do is come back and roll around and work our way back to squats and then back to bench and back to deadlifts and kind of go through a few of the variations that we like and how we would factor them into a program and in like what scenario we would use what.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be super valuable to touch on as well.
I think so too.
Cool. We'll work on that and then and we'll keep rolling through.
Marvelous.
All right, man. I appreciate the chat as always.
Likewise.
Thanks everyone for listening. If you made it this far, we appreciate you, our spotters and loaders. I think that's what we've agreed to call you.
Yeah, I think that'll work really nicely.
So, thank you guys, and we'll chat to you next week.
Have a good week, guys.